Is that legal?
I will make it legal.
Where do you get this bureaucratic bull?
You have all the character references of a politician.
Intelligence has nothing to do with politics.
This president is not above the law.
If the dirty air don't get you, the politicians will.
The last remnants of the old republic have been swept away.
These orders have forced us to declare independence.
I think Hawkman and Flash Gordon said it better late than never. Because here we are. There's a lot going on in the world and in our lives. So just a little bit late, but we're here to talk about the topics that we've planned. It looks like we have a little bit of breaking news here that we'll bring up in a minute. But first, let's see who we have in the chat before I bring in my esteemed co-host. We have Mike Dubb in the house, the bald eagle. YouTube said not to come here. Let us know what you mean by that. That's interesting. Trey Courtney in the house. We've got Mike Jolene. Freeze, keyboard in the air. Yeah, pretty much. Liquid Blake from Sydney, Australia, saying greetings to everyone. We've got Melissa Lord is in the house. We've got E. Clay Thomason, member of the other channel, in the house. We've got SPK 4000. Everyone tells me they aren't hanging out tonight, and then I find out all of you gathered here without me. I thought you were my friends. I thought you had a couple of messages or comments like hours ago in here saying you found it or something, but it was difficult to find. Let me know what you meant by that. Fuck Norris is in the house. What's going on, man? I saw you were watching some of my older videos in the last several days. I just actually found the comments today. That's awesome. I am busy. Yeah, I kind of was busy. But it's okay because I was supposed to be here. Blade Trinity. Wow. I don't think I ever even saw that one, man. Is that the one that had like Edge and Triple H?
Ryan Reynolds.
Timon. What'd you say?
That's the one that had Ryan Reynolds in it, didn't it?
I don't remember, man. Like the second one, I barely remember. So I think that's everyone for now. Oh, Citizen 333 in the house. What's going on? I don't think I missed anyone. If I did, it wasn't intentional, and we'll definitely see you later in the chat. But I have with me, as always, the Grand High Priest, a Holy Order of the Jab.
Good evening, brothers and sisters.
You know, and it's good to see that people are starting to say the same thing I did when Steve Kenobi sent that tweet out today, that reply out that you're one of the best panelists, and he's exactly right. And we had Teresa chiming in and some others. I mean, you know, just think about any topic. Like, you know, you could go on Casual Rage, and it could be about something that we don't even want to talk about, right? But you find a way to make it factual and interesting, and I think people recognize that. So I just,
appreciate that, sir. And
I don't want to give you work, though. I don't want people to bugging you to be a panelist and stuff like that.
Well, how many times am I a panelist every week as it is?
Yeah,
it's a pretty regular gig these days,
which
is fine. I like not complaining. I like that. I enjoy being a guest.
Awesome.
And I will
try to live
up to the reputation of being knowledgeable, but we'll see.
Absolutely.
Typically, we get into the conversations, though, that are a little bit into my wheelhouse as far as stuff I'm interested in and read about. So,
right.
Don't ask me any physics questions.
Well, I mean, how fun of a stream would that be if we talked about physics and stuff,
Not
very fun.
It would be pretty damn boring because it's a fascinating subject, but I can't say I know. I'm very knowledgeable about it.
Yeah. So, lots of stuff going on in the news, just across the board. Lots of stuff. Let's see. So we've
disappointing week. Just
oh yeah, big time.
So disappointing.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's just across the board. Disappointing for a lot of different reasons, but it looks like some people are starting to show indications that they're having second thoughts about their decisions, right? But it's probably for the wrong reasons, and we'll definitely talk about that.
Well, yeah, because I mean, the issue keeps getting conflated between two very separate but related things. The difference between should we and how did we do it? Very two different things. The administration really, really wants to conflate the two because that's all they'll talk about is whether or not we should have left, not the manner in which we left.
Yeah, and I put a tweet out. Good grief! It must have been the day after the evacuation, and I said, the spin doctors or whatever I said, they're trying to come up with the narrative, right?
Oh,
and you kind of saw some of that happening early on in this process, but now, man, it's getting pretty bad in some sectors, and it's like, how can you even say that with a straight face? Like, make excuses for this presidency. And then that terrible video, the one that I did a lot of tweets trying to promote this. I mean, that was garbage. And maybe if we have time, we'll take a look at that.
Yeah, that actually ended up trending on Twitter. I saw for at least a part.
That's how I found it.
Yeah, I'm just like, okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's going to be the best that they're going to have. I mean, that's the only thing they have, and it's the driving force of their existence. Apparently, is blind party loyalty and an absolute, continuation of TDS.
Yeah. But let's go ahead and jump into Afghanistan. I just pulled up the news. America strikes back. Let me click on the actual story here. Let's see. They changed the headline. This is 2 hours ago. U.S. launches drone attack against ISIS planner in Afghanistan. Target apparently killed, Pentagon says. Biden told another Kabul attack is likely. White House says live updates. Flights out of Afghanistan are continuing after the terrorist attack outside the Abbey Gate at Kabul's airport Thursday killed at least 13 U.S. service members and at least 169 Afghans, according to officials. 2 hours ago, more details emerge on Pentagon drone strike, believed to have killed the ISIS planner. The drone hit, the U.S. drone hit a vehicle carrying the leader who is believed to be carrying out future attacks. A U.S. official briefed on the strike, tells Fox News.
Can I just ask a very obvious question?
Yeah, I know what you're going to say, but go ahead.
Well, the very obvious question is like, how did we know who he was and where he was? And if we had that intelligence, why did we wait till after he did something? Like, pretty sure ISIS is on our, insta-kill list when found, right? Kill or capture.
Yeah.
What the fuck were we waiting for if we knew who this guy was and where he was? Or are we supposed to believe that they just suddenly found this information out like a couple of hours ago? I find it really, I'm just very skeptical. And like, I guess, is it possible that the Taliban turned over information to the Biden administration and then they carried out the drone strike? Sure. Great if you trust them. If you trust them. I mean, for all we knew, that guy was just some hot dog vendor. And Taliban said, "Oh, it was him. Get him." Like, you don't. I'm sure our intelligence is much better than that, but like, where was it a couple days ago then? Why didn't we kill this guy a few days ago, before his little group attacked? What were we waiting for?
Yeah, and I feel like asking questions like that, like, we self-police ourselves from doing that because we don't want to be labeled as, as the crackpot or conspiracy theorist. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, but the way that you frame it makes it a good question. Yeah, it is. It's very logical. Very
and
logical.
I guess if the answer is that we've known who this guy is and where this guy is this whole time, then that's just yet another, like, great that we killed him, glad he's dead, but that's just another example of failure then. Like, if we didn't kill him earlier when we could have.
Agreed.
And it's really interesting because this president has a history of not exactly being forthcoming or accurate in his own recollections of killing a particular Al Qaeda leader in Pakistan.
Oh, yeah.
Like, if you go back and through the history there, his story of the events of that cabinet meeting, or that, I don't know if it's a cabinet meeting or just an advisory meeting or what committee or whatever. But, all the big players were there. Obviously, Obama and Biden, and Hillary was there. Leon Panetta was there. Gates was there. Like, there were, like, all the top advisors were there when they were mulling over whether or not to go through with the drone strike, or the not the drone strike, but the mission to kill or capture bin Laden. And his story has changed over the years. And like, if you go, like, I think it's factcheck.org. They did, normally I don't particularly care for a lot of these websites that, supposedly do fact checks, because they'll be like, well, it's 90% bullshit, but, because
I hate that. Yeah.
But because of the, the circumstances around it, or how the other side is using it, we're just going to label this like partially true or something like that. It's just bizarre how they label things. I actually have.
Yeah, and it is factcheck.org. It's not .com. Like, former Vice President Dick Cheney called out during a debate and sent a lot of his supporters to a left-wing website. I think it was the 2004 debates. Yeah, hilarious, actually. But it is .org, not .com.
Yeah, I have it shared.
Well, and that the actual guy that fired the shot, he does not like Biden. He's been out there in the last
he's
week or so. Yeah.
Yeah.
So on social media, talking about the president's decision. So, and then while you're looking that up, last week too, no one got a notification. So I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's because the channel's smaller. I don't know if it's because of the topics. Maybe what I could do is, as a test in a few days from now, I could set up one where we're going to talk about our favorite vending machine food or something like that, and see if you guys get a notification. But everyone, do me a favor, when we're done here, just make sure that you do have the bell rung. And if anyone in the chat did get a notification, let us know. If no one got one, then I'll be a little bit suspicious. So,
right.
P Word Joe is shitty, but he's got the only more unlikable politician behind him on purpose to stay as long as possible. Nipag Kamala.
That is an issue.
I have some friends that I've known a long time, and they were in a group chat on a social media service just today, actually, and they were talking about that, like, what would they really prefer that she take over? Like, is it a lesser of two evils? Because this guy's mind is mush, right? Even if it's not mush, he's a complete asshole and liar with this facade of being an aw shucks good old boy. Yeah. So
yeah, there's like, to fully understand this issue, like, you know, you do kind of have to go back in the timeline, because, you know, obviously we've been in Afghanistan for, you know, 20 years.
Yeah.
And then Biden's been in politics for 190. So like you have to go back in time quite a bit in order to kind of understand his history.
Yep.
and the things that he has said.
I wouldn't trust Kamala to watch tennis shoes. Yeah. Blake got a half-hour notification. So
okay, well,
interesting. Did you find it?
The other ones. I'm having an issue with my fucking
screen. Well, keep looking for that, and I'm going to keep reading this here. It's not clear if the planner was involved in the suicide attack at Kabul airport. Read that sentence again. Well, let's go back to the beginning. A drone strike believed to hit the leader. Okay, not clear if the planner was involved in the suicide attack. If he or she, pronouns, involved in the suicide attack, then would he even be available to be killed from a drone strike? Does that follow?
Well, I guess he could have been part of like the logistics and planning part of it without actually carrying out the
I guess just
itself?
Poor wording here from Fox News Channel's Lucas Tomlinson, which killed 13 U.S. service members and wounded 20 others. The ISIS planner was also traveling with an associate, Fox News understands. I'm not going to speculate on who or what that might have been. The drone strike took place a few hours ago near the border with Pakistan, the official said. So that's pretty fresh news right there. Just in the last couple of hours, since I got busy with something that prevented me from starting the stream on time. So I would have seen this had I been able to see it, if that makes sense. And then before that, shortly before that, there was the breaking tweet on it. And then 3 hours ago, State Department issues another security alert for Kabul airport. The latest security alert followed Thursday's deadly suicide bombing attacks. The Biden administration warned earlier Friday another attack at the airport is considered likely. Because of security threats at this is a quote, because of security threats at the Kabul airport, we continue to advise U.S. citizens to avoid traveling to the airport and to avoid airport gates, the alert said. U.S. citizens who are at the Abbey Gate, East Gate, North Gate, or the new Ministry of Interior Gate now should leave immediately.
Ministry of
what?
Gate. Okay.
This is all... Ever since last week, this has been all reactive. Completely. On day one, after the whatever you want to call it, the storming of Kabul, right? Mm-hmm. Ever since that, there hasn't been like a plan of how do we get our people out of there that's been competent. It's been reactive every single day. Now we have a drone strike and we lost Greg, everyone. He'll be back. That's all it's been, people. It's been, what's going to happen next? What do we do? Uh-oh, something else happened. What do we do? There's no proactive measures being taken. It's all reactive. They wait to see what happens and then they react. There's no foresight. There's no strategy in this at all. It's all tactical. And this all started out from a tactical error, from a tactical failing that, the plan was to get out by a certain date and we're getting out. We're going to get out by that date. Even if it doesn't make sense, we're going to deliver on our promise. Well, someone had to have known that pulling out your assets before you had, when I say your assets, I mean your military assets, before you pulled out your civilian personnel and all of your important and sensitive equipment and documents. It was a huge tactical error. Number one, the decision to go ahead and pull out, even though they knew this, someone had to have known this was going to happen, that Taliban would just sweep in. The fact that the Afghan military wasn't trained to the point where they could act without support from us, without air support, stuff like that. There's just so many failings on almost every level. And just because this war has been going on for 20 years, in November, I think it'll be, when we first moved assets over there after 9/11 occurred. The fact that it's been going on that long doesn't mean that good decisions can't be made by whoever is in office now. So that is why it is the Biden administration's responsibility. 3 hours ago, Christian Veterans Nonprofit helped save 8 lives from Taliban terror. As NGOs and U.S. forces continue to race to get Americans and Afghan allies to safety ahead of the Biden administration's August 31st deadline in Afghanistan, one faith-based nonprofit helped evacuate an at-risk family of 8 Christians from the chaos in Kabul. And that's what's happening, you know? And I'm a private enterprise type of guy, and it's a nonprofit, so is it really private or not? But I think that's great that someone was able to help, but why are they having to? That's the point. This is a military operation. Why is a faith-based nonprofit having to take action to get people out of that country? It's beyond the pale. State Department, this is 4 hours ago. State Department contradicts Biden's remarks that there may be a kill list provided to Taliban. I read something about this earlier today, I think. Let's see if this is the same thing I'm thinking of. State Department spokesperson Ned Price seemingly contradicted President Biden's acknowledgement that the United States may have provided the Taliban with a list of names of Americans and allies in order to usher them to the airport. That is what I read earlier today, and he's back with us. Everything okay?
Yeah. Computer issues.
Now, if this is true, and I read this
Discord is a repugnant, repulsive application.
What is?
Discord.
Why were you in Discord?
Well, it was open.
Oh.
I had to reboot my computer, and of course Discord is updating because it has to update every 5 seconds.
I just go to the website. I don't even...
Gets the fuck out of me.
I don't have, like, the actual application. But I read this more than 4 hours ago, and if this is in any way true, not only does it show the stupidity of the Biden administration, it shows how disgusting they are. Did you hear what I just read? No. About the list of, hey, Taliban, we have some people that we want to get out of there, that you want to get out of there.
The kill list.
Here's the list. I mean,
grossly,
if that is in any way true.
Incompetent.
Yes. And it's disgusting because the fact that they would put any trust in that organization to safely return our citizens.
Well,
tells you how stupid they are and how how nonchalant they are with their lives.
Well, and
how
then
naive they are. Go ahead.
Let's say you believe the leader 100%. Okay, you believe the leader, but like how does this organization, the Taliban, get that information out there, and like how do they vet their own people? Like I'm guessing that, you know, just a hunch, they kind of let any, you know, Tom, Dick, and jihadist in. And if they then hand that list to anybody else, then like how is it being secured? So let's say even in the best of circumstances, you trust the people you're handing the list to.
Yeah, yeah.
Problem is like, do you trust the people that they're going to hand the list to from then on? And because obviously they're going to have to, otherwise, why would you even give them the information in the first place, right?
Yeah.
But this idea that like, oh, you trust everybody in the organization? Because like some of them haven't gotten a memo about, not beating people up on the way to the airport and stuff.
There you go.
So you're like, do those guys in the group, did they get the list too? Like,
yep.
There's just it's so frustrating because it's just such fucking amateur hour. Like nobody, like is nobody thinking like a couple steps ahead? I mean, here's what I would do. I would give them a list that's fucking bogus, and inside the house that it sends them to, we have 150 of our guys ready to blow their fucking brains out as soon as they kick the door down.
I like it. Yep.
You're like, here's a little test for you guys. Oh, you failed.
And what this is, it's like, and I'm not making this contrived, but it's the first thing that comes to mind. It's like writing the plot to The Mandalorian seasons 1 and 2, right? It's like, let's do this, let's do this, let's do that, and then you don't even think about what the consequences are in the future. And then when you are in the future, right, you don't think about what's already come before. Exact same concept here. So, yeah, we can't have a stream without bringing up that shit production.
Well, if the analogy fits, then go ahead.
There you go.
But yeah, this is Dinjarin level of intelligence. I think. I just, and you look at the people's reaction, and the reaction was when that news broke that we gave them essentially a list. It wasn't just the righties that were, kind of like flabbergasted at the stupidity of such a thing. Like I saw some leftist Twitter even, and Democrats and other things going like, wait, what the fuck? We just gave them a list of all the people and like basically where to find them.
Right.
Yeah, that doesn't seem like a good idea. Are you trying to get them killed? I think you are. You must be. Like, otherwise, why in the fuck are you doing that?
Right.
It
reeks of a lot of
Let's
prior.
try this.
Yeah. A lot of prior administrations trusting tin pot dictators to do this or to do that.
Right.
Let's think about North Korea. Let's think about East Africa, stuff like that, like, hey, we're going to give you all this. And after we do that, can you please stop being bad and stuff? We trust that you're going to. So
when the Grand High Priest, Holy Order of the Jab, become president of the United States, should, the country actually exist at that point, I will have a very, very specific policy. And that policy is, because this drives me nuts. If I hear you either say in private, in a meeting, or in public, on an interview or anything having to do with, well, they better do something because if they want to be a part of the international community, right? Like they keep saying that, like, oh, well, the Taliban better do this and they better do this, or if they want to be part of the international community. And it's like, what is the international community? It to these people in the State Department, these lifetime government fucks, it's literally just, you're going to get exclusive access to the nice hotels and the cushy conferences. Does anybody believe for 1 second that the fucking Taliban gives one flying fuck what any other country does, or whether or not they get invited to the next UN conference somewhere? Like, I guarantee they do not care. They will never care. That's not a carrot or a stick. They're like, oh no, we're not going to be invited to the climate. Summit? Oh, dang. Because you know who's going right behind, and they're like, there's this other little country that a little bit, northeast of them that's saying, fuck the international community, we'll trade with you. We want your metals.
Yeah.
That's all they care. Like, as long as they get, like, China, like, if they can have trade relations with China, they're fine. They don't give a fuck about any of this international community bullshit. Like, what? And you know what? Honestly, most countries shouldn't. Like, it's good to have diplomatic relations, but these guys think it's like the end all be all. Like, that is the most important thing. Like that's like tin pot dictators give a flying fuck.
Yeah.
And sorry, I keep swearing because it angers me so much.
Oh,
when they worry about, or they think that, like, that's somehow going to be a motivating factor. Like, the Taliban care so much what the international community thinks. Like, this is the group that literally said, go fuck yourself to us when we said, help us hunt down Al Qaeda. Because if you go all the way back to 2001, had the Taliban turned in the Al Qaeda and where the bases were, we would have never invaded Afghanistan. We would have just taken those bases.
Yep.
But the Taliban said, go fuck yourself to us and the international community. Like, they have a history of not giving a fuck about what the tea parties in New York at the UN are saying, or what the goddamn conference on whatever the fuck that they're doing as some part of, like, these people are just pretenders. These State Department people, they're not actually, like, doing diplomacy. They're playing diplomacy.
Yeah.
They want the role, the cushiness of it, the nice hotels, the security people around them, and but do they actually do actual real work? I don't think so. Get rid of those guys.
Yeah, it's like someone who...
The Department of State is so goddamn worthless.
It's someone who is like a student for life. They can never get out of education. They're either going to school or they're, teaching in some college somewhere. Then they go into a government job. Someone who's never been in the private sector. Stuff like that. That's what these people are. Overeducated slouches. And then, are you surprised that a guy that his normal everyday uniform is like a red beret, he doesn't want to be able to purchase carbon credits? Are you, surprised at his lack of lamentation at not being able to participate in that process? I mean, come on.
Right. They're going to go against it. Like, okay, so you have the Taliban. Like, if the Taliban didn't have fundamental differences with the West, like, they would have joined the Afghani government and not overthrown it.
Yes.
So this idea that you're expecting them to, because we're wagging our fingers and writing stern letters and stuff like that, but, like, you better totally respect women.
Yeah.
And they're like, sure, yep, we sure will. As they're dragging them off.
Big shocker.
What a joke. And these people think that that's, like, going to be effective. Like, the level of incompetence is just astounding. And then they're lying to our face about it. Like, it is really bizarre because the press has actually done, at least on this issue, their job. They've actually been reporting on CNN and MSNBC and and Fox News, all the other ones as well, but, like, and the ABC News, NBC News, like, they're actually reporting on the ground. Like, you got Biden and Psaki out there acting like Baghdad Bob. Right? Remember that guy from the from the Iraqi war? Like, no, we're totally repelling them, and, like, our tanks are rolling up on his ass. They're doing that routine, and the press on the ground is like, no, it's chaotic as fuck. This is not organized. Like, they're there, and they're like, I don't know what they're seeing, but that's not what I'm seeing. And they're getting, But they're just continuing to lie. And then they do this spin and be like, it's the most successful airlift in world history. Like, oh, congratulations.
I read some of that today.
Congratulations. Yeah. You get the Guinness Book of World Records for airlifting X amount of people in X amount of time. What about the people that are left?
Right.
And that's one of those records that'd be like, great, but why? Like, why would you even try and do that? Like, oh, you evacuated 20,000 or 10,000 people in 4 days? Great, but like, wouldn't it have been better to do the same in 8? It would be less chaotic and like actually start planning for this stuff like before you pulled the plug.
Yeah, it's like bobbing for apples, or let's say you have 5 apples in the whatever it is in the bowl, and you get like 3/4 of the water in 1 apple, and you weigh it and say, hey, that's the most total weight of water and apples we've ever done, yet you're leaving apples inside the bowl. That's what's happening.
Right.
It's like
that in and of itself is not a great accomplishment.
No, and it's this self-congratulation, which we're going to get into a different form of that later. It's just, they're either complete assholes or they're completely disconnected from reality. And I don't know which one is better, to be honest.
I think it's they're assholes, they're incompetent, and they're liars. Like, I think it's all three. Like,
yeah,
just it's they're doing.
We know which one it is at the top, at the very top,
to save their own bake. They're doing it to save their own ass, not actually like fix the issue or resolve the issue.
We've had some other people show up here. Samuel's in the house. What's going on, Samuel? I thought I saw someone else, but there's something else that I want to talk about. And this is a touchy one. It's related to this. I just came across it in this running list of updates on Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Marine Corps confirms Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Scheller relieved of duty. Did you hear about this?
Yeah.
Oh, this is a tough one. So this Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Scheller was critical of what happened after some of his fellow Marines died in the attack, and he was critical of the pullout on social media, and he was removed from command. Now, you really can't disagree with that, because when you're in the military,
chain of command is very important.
Oh yeah, it's your duty to obey orders and to respect authority. And here's the reason why.
Obey lawful orders.
Lawful. When the chain of command breaks down, then the whole organization, the whole unit becomes nothing. It becomes pointless. So you have to. And when Greg just mentioned lawful, there was nothing unlawful about this. It was stupid. It was
immoral,
ill-advised. But at the end of the day, it's been something they've stated was the strategy to get out by a certain date, which again is dumb, as I mentioned earlier. But if you're under the command structure of the President of the United States, aka the Commander-in-Chief, it's your job to obey orders. Even if it's a dumb order, not if it's an unlawful order, but again, it wasn't. So it's really hard to take this guy's side. Now, this isn't like a whistleblower that works for a private company, right? That exposed
he
something.
was just saying like I don't like the strategy, like this was a mistake. But,
Yeah, and if they passed this, they being the upper echelons of the United States military leadership, if they let this pass, if they okayed this, they didn't punish him, then it opens up Pandora's box for this to happen all the time. And then you've got people, you've got people disobeying all kinds of orders, even ones that are not ill-advised. So
see, and
it's hard to support the guy.
this guy knew it when he posted it too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, this is something like, because like not only is it like trained in the military aspect, but it's basically just common sense, right? So let's say you work for Disney, and you go out in public and say like in your Disney uniform and say Bob Chapek likes cheese pizza, or is an idiot, or you know what Bob Chapek's probably going to have done? He's going to fire your ass.
Yeah.
Right? Because he's the boss, and that's what he gets to do. And that's what a commander-in-chief gets to do. And that's, like, if you want to be an advisor, be an advisor. You want to get into politics, be in politics. But if you're in the military, a good line from a movie I just watched recently, because I love submarine movies, Crimson Tide. We're here to preserve democracy, not practice it.
Yeah.
And
the thing is, guys,
military.
This was a lieutenant colonel. That's 2 steps down from general, right?
Yeah.
You go lieutenant colonel, colonel, general.
It's not like the Pentagon stocking, Private Pile over there. Like,
right. Yeah. So it's really tough
that
to
person
support
would
him.
be as well. Like
yeah, absolutely they would. Yeah.
Obviously, when you have that weight of your rank there, you're going to get a little bit more attention. And yeah, he knew it when he did it. He got basically what he had coming to him as far as disciplinary action. That's like, it doesn't matter if what he's saying is right. Like, that's
correct.
Immaterial.
Correct. Yes.
The fact of the matter is you can't have all these people in the mid to upper ranks like publicly questioning the direction. That's just not how it goes.
Oh man, and there's a great scene in Babylon 5 on this topic. And it's a really interesting one because of what happens in the show. It's almost, wait, is this hypocritical and stuff? But there's just a great line about the moral authority. That's what the chain of command is. It's like your commanding officer has the moral authority to give you an order, and you just have an obligation to follow it. If it's lawful, if they said, hey, go I don't want to say
that. Go grape that lady.
Yeah, I was going to say something else that could be clipped.
I mean, you could.
That wouldn't be good, but
in extreme where it gets
go assassinate someone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. A U.S. citizen or something like that.
Yeah.
Like when it's very obvious that it's an unlawful order, then it's your duty and responsibility not to obey that order.
Yes.
But as Michael said, is like, you better be right. Because when that court martial comes, you better fucking be right. Because if you're not, and it was a lawful order and you were just disobeying, you're going to pay the consequences. So, yeah, there you go. You can disobey, but you better be right.
Yeah, and right meaning only if it's unlawful, not if you're right, about, hey, this was
strategy.
This was a complete shit show. You can be right about that, but it doesn't mean you're not going to be held accountable.
Right.
So
yeah, there's a difference between difference in strategy versus purely unlawful, and nothing as far as I can see here has been like it's grossly incompetent, but not.
I'd like to play that game, Blake, and like line up a few people. Because, man, those balls can sting.
Oh, God, yeah, that was a fun game to play on the playground. It
was.
You threw the ball as hard as you could. And that was basically what you did. Because the deal is like, you don't want them to be able to catch it.
Yeah.
So you go low at their feet and as hard as you freaking can.
But then the lower you go, it's easy to bunny hop over it,
Yeah, if it's just a one-on-one and he's only focusing on you, yeah, that's a little different. But
yeah,
it's rewarding to hit somebody so hard with a ball in their feet that they just kind of it takes them, their legs out from underneath them. It's just a satisfying feeling.
It is.
Although hearing the ting of that rubber ball hitting their face also sounds kind of nice too.
It does.
I mean, the goal of dodgeball is not to win the game, it's to kill the other side. So they never want to play again.
Yes. I agree. I agree. By the way, I have this shirt on. This is like the most redneck shirt you can get. I think I got it like many, many years ago, maybe 15 years ago when I re-upped with the NRA, and they just sent it. So it's got, the eagle, it's got the NRA logo, the flag, the two guns crossed, fire. I mean, come on. I could walk right into like a NASCAR event they wouldn't even question me.
Shirt right there, buddy.
Usually I wear it when I'm working outside, but it just happened to be clean, so I have it on, and we're doing a political stream. So 6 hours ago, White House releases updated evacuation figures. An additional 29 coalition flights evacuated approximately 2,100 people. Just the fact that we have, and there's more, but just that it's at least 2,100 still, like how?
Well, and they won't answer the question of how many are left.
Yeah, but they'll give lists of names, right? I mean,
right. They can give lists of names. Obviously, they can say, well, that wasn't the full list. So, I mean, they could have that plausible excuse, but like, it's still like, they won't say like, oh, we think it's somewhere between these two numbers. And I'm not saying like, give them, oh, it's somewhere between 1 and 40,000, but,
one in infinity.
They're like, well, some people don't register when they get moved, go into the country, because there was a lot of private contractors and
right
and civilians there, volunteers, for various charity organizations and things like that, and not every one of them registers with the embassy when they get in country. Okay, but like, can you factor that as like 5% and then give me a number?
Right.
And then just tell me that it could be plus or minus this because you don't know, and not everybody registered when they got there, or not everybody registers when they leave. But like, you should be able to give me a ballpark. And if you can't give me a ballpark, then how do you expect to complete the mission if you have no idea? You're expecting them to give you a call. That's how you're measuring it, is how many people are actually calling. What about the people who are not in Kabul, but in more outlying towns where there's no presence of any allied troops or anything like that? What if they've already been like seized and their cell phones taken away? Like, do you have any idea they're out there, or are we just going to wait to see the beheading video later?
Yeah,
right? Because like, you guys have to be able to like ballpark it, and just say you're ballparking it. Say, all you have to do is say like, we don't know for sure, but we think it's in the neighborhood of this number. But they won't do it. And what do you think when they won't give you that information, right? It's kind of like a certain groping governor from a particular eastern seaboard state, like, won't give the numbers correctly, like,
yeah,
because
governor,
because they're not good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, instinctually, like, I believe, like, okay, you can't possibly not have any idea. Like, I can't believe even you guys could be that grossly incompetent that you couldn't even come up with a ballpark figure. So you're deliberately hiding it because it paints you in a bad light.
Yeah.
Because let's say, if it was 85 people, then let's just say 85. We're almost there. Good. Right, but they can't say that.
Right.
If you're there as a part of a charitable organization, a church group, or a private contractor, like the private contractors, like, we know who they were, right? We know the names of the companies. Like, hey, XYZ company, give us a list of your employees that you had in Afghanistan as of this date, so we can cross-reference who we flew out. Like, how hard is that?
Yeah. And then this whole spin on how successful it was, it's probably based on something like this. Second paragraph, the U.S. has now evacuated approximately 109,200 people since the 14th, and about 114,800 since the end of July. it's like, hey, look, we're in the six figures now. That's a lot.
Right. But if you don't have a comparison to the
not,
actual total, then
exactly.
Yeah.
Not only that, but
or is it 80%?
Not only that, but
Don't know.
correct me if I'm wrong. Haven't we been being told that, every life, even one life matters, right?
Yeah, if it could save just one life for everything, right?
Yeah.
We invent entire it's the basis of our entire pandemic plan or model. It's the basis for never ending any of these horrifically failed and ineffective social programs and agencies, because you can't. It's just one life, right?
Yeah, correct.
Like, oh, I'll lock down if I just save one life, I'd lock down the whole state. Oh, then you're fired.
And expand abortion subsidies and all that stuff. Sure.
Right. At the same time, yeah, a little bit hypocritical, but I mean, besides that point, it's that mentality is just, it's a recipe for bad policy. Like, no good policy can come from that mentality, because I mean, you can take it to my kids drowned every year, so if we could just, regulate.
Yeah.
No bathtubs and no more pools. Just one life.
Yep.
Just one life, man. Put a fence around all the lakes.
This is going to sound cheesy, but let's bring it up anyway. The first Iron Man movie, it kind of showed what Tony was going through in the beginning of the movie, and you just think of how many people are in that situation right now that were in these, I don't want to call them outlying towns, because almost everything's outlying there. Let's just be honest.
They don't have a whole lot of big cities. It's extraordinarily, it's rural, it's tribal.
It's caves and all that. Just how many people are out there with no access to anyone, and they have no hope. Like, it makes me not even I can't even go to sleep tonight because I'm thinking about that kind of stuff. And maybe they're over there on ill-advised decision making. Some of them never should have gone over there and stuff, but they are there, and if we needed to get them out, then and we didn't follow a process that gets them out safely, then I feel for them. That's all I can say.
Yeah, well, I mean, you could be a little practical about it. Like, so for example, you had the people that they went hiking in the mountain ranges in Iran and whatever, and got their ass captured.
Now that's stupid. Yeah.
Yeah, and I look at those people and I'm like, well, that's really stupid. But our government and our leader, as recently as mid-July, 1 month ago, was saying all the things that have transpired were virtually impossible. There's no way that the Afghan government would fail, and all these things. And it's with those reassurances that a lot of these people stayed. Now,
very true.
And if they believed the information that they were getting from their own government and their leaders, oh no, they're not going to overrun and overtake the country. It'll take them, weeks if they try, and we're getting to the end of the fighting season, and all that stuff. We're heading into winter or whatever, and oh no, it can't happen. And then so you don't leave because you were told all right, things are good. You can continue. You can still work here. You can do the humanitarian mission or whatever you're there for, or whatever brought you to the country in the first place.
Yeah,
you can continue doing this because don't worry about it. The Afghan government's got it, and so they were either lied to, or the people on the ground who were assessing that information
are incompetent. Yeah.
Are grossly incompetent and should never be employed ever again. I don't know, because it wasn't like the Taliban just took all the cities all at once. Okay, they've been advancing for a while now. Like, a lot of people don't realize this because it really wasn't making headlines.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't just take over all the cities in 3 days, right? They did a rapid kind of blitzkrieg to take the rest of them, but they've been advancing for a while now. And I don't know if looking at that, like, I don't know how these intelligence people could honestly, truthfully say, like, based on our assessment, this can't happen. The Afghan troops.
Well, think about it this way. Think about it this way. As Matt Wilkins joins the chat, U.S. has a leader. I didn't know this, but think about it this way, Greg. I think a lot of times those types of people on the ground, saying everything will be okay, the government will hold. It's almost like they are handpicked to perpetuate the narrative, right? That, we need to get out of the country. And for that to happen, we need to be told that everything will be okay once we do. So they send those people in. Yeah. And they report what needs to be reported to support the mission. And that was to get people out ASAP, no matter the cost. So I think it's incompetence.
And the weasels at the State Department.
Yeah, I think it's incompetence along the lines of not that they didn't know what they were doing, but that they did. And it's incompetent because you're getting people killed just to push that
they
narrative.
Thought it was likely, but they were just hoping for the best.
Yeah, well, I'm sure they knew that.
But then
looking at the
selling
facts,
it as like it's a guarantee. Like,
it's
you're given 40-60 odds, and you're selling it as a slam dunk.
Yeah, exactly. I see this at work all the time where they pick certain people to work on a project because they know they won't talk back. They know that they won't point out the fallacies in it, right? Mm-hmm. But then you pick someone else like me, and it's like, well, this is why this isn't going to work. And then suddenly you're persona non grata, right? Because you're being negative. You're being negative. You're being negative. Oh, God. Yeah. So send in the people that are going to confirm what I want to hear, right? Mm-hmm. So that I can move forward with what I want the plan to be. That's exactly what this is. No one could be that incompetent, is my point. But it's still incompetence because you're making a decision that is not in the best interest of the United States of America. So,
no, we wanted an honest assessment, and you gave us a sales pitch.
Yes,
it basically is what and I firmly believe it's the State Department that's behind a lot of that. A little bit of our intelligence agencies as well, but a lot of it the State Department. There's nothing but weasels there. Like, not one person who works for the State Department as of right now, this day, this hour, should be employed tomorrow.
I agree.
Fire the entire cabinet level. Like, just get rid of, like, I'm sorry, you're all fired. You can reapply in 150 years.
Yeah, you can be like a unemployment benefits approver or something like that. You can do that for the rest of your career.
Go volunteer for the Moderna and AstraZeneca trials at the FDA.
We actually brought up Baghdad Bob earlier, Lady Toriel, and I just came up with a brilliant idea. Something I'm going to work on over the next couple of weeks. So, it's coming to me. I need to write this down before I forget. Because I've done that. I've thought of ideas, and then for the life of me, I can't remember them later. So, I don't think it's incompetence. As member Quietly Quiet joins us, I think this is playing out exactly like they knew it would. That's what I'm saying. It's not incompetence in that they didn't know what they were doing. Well, actually, I dialed that back because the leaders might have known what was going to happen, but some of these people, right, that they put on the ground to assess, some of them might have been so dumb that they would have reaffirmed what the leaders wanted to hear.
Yeah.
Just because they're dumb, but it's still incompetence in the sense.
If I tell you what I want to hear, will you get me the hell out of here?
Yeah, that too. But it's incompetence in the sense that we as a country are making decisions that is getting people killed, and it's probably going to get more killed, to be quite honest. So
over the course
but
of the
they
years,
know what they're doing,
and it's gonna be very, very difficult to even get an honest number. You know, from like, unless they make a public show of the people that they're executing, how would we even know as a public?
Yeah, it makes me sick
because like our own government, according to them, has no idea how many people are over there. So they have no idea anybody's missing. How do they even know?
Right.
So unless they make a public show of it, we have no idea. And I don't think they're going to. I think I think they're smart enough to be like, look, we're gonna still do all these nasty stuff. We're just not gonna we're not gonna post it on the internet to get the
like they used to 20 years ago.
They used to. Well, because they're just like, at this point, they just want their country and they want to be kind of left alone. But they don't want. I mean, at some point though, they got to figure like, why even care? Because like, there's no way we're going back in.
Right.
Not anytime soon. Like, what would be the line too far, do you think, for this administration to go, that's it? We're sending 80,000 back in.
I don't think there is one. I mean, I think
there is either.
I think they're committed to
whatever the fuck they want.
And then, claim success. It's one of the tweets, because I've been tweeting all week about this. And one of the ones I put out is that Neville Chamberlain quote. What's that noise? He muted, so it went away. But there's that Neville Chamberlain quote about peace for our time, right? That Neville Chamberlain, former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, England, whatever, he thought that he had this great peace deal with the powers before World War I in Germany, right? Or World War II, my bad. And he thought he had this great peace deal and all that stuff. And all he was a kowtowing, capitulating cuck. And Churchill knew that. So, and he got to say, yay, my children and grandchildren, we'll see peace in our time and all that stuff. And then, what happens 3 years later? We have Germany's on the march, right? They're going this way. They're going that way. They're heading right for you on that little island across the channel. So that's kind of what's going on here. They're heading toward claiming that they ended a 20-year war. Yay, we ended it. At what cost? If I'm the family of someone who died in this operation, whether it's a military member or not, I'm like, fuck you. You're my biggest enemy because you killed my family member, my friend, whatever it may be, just so that you could elevate yourself politically. And who's going to buy it? You know what I mean? Like, you're doing it for no reason. Because is Chamberlain thought of in a positive light now? I saw some shit article about a year ago that tried to defend him, but it's one out of millions of commentaries on him. So, 20 years from now, do you think anyone's going to look back and say, yeah, that was a successful rollout of peace, ending a war for the United States? Do you think anyone's going to look back and say that? No. So the fact that you killed my family member, if I'm someone who has someone over there, whether it's a civilian or military, the Biden administration is my biggest enemy, my biggest offender. And it just makes me sick. 6 hours ago, top general says U.S. military is prepared to house and feed Afghan refugees as long as it takes. Where? They're coming here, starting over with what they bring with them. General told reporters, we've been incredibly well supported by the local communities and non-governmental organizations. Where I got to click on this story because this headline makes no sense. Let's see. Does he mean somewhere in Afghanistan? No, tasked with overseeing the U.S. Northern Command. So he's talking about the Afghans that they're bringing over on some of these flights. Had you heard about this, Greg? Over 21,000 Afghan refugees, 21,000 have arrived at several U.S. airports and military bases since evacuations from Afghanistan were initiated
throughout
weeks
the
ago.
world. I don't know of any like that's in the U.S. as of yet.
What did I just say? Over 21,000 have arrived at several U.S. airports and military bases. Up to 50,000 are expected to arrive by September 15th.
Yep.
So,
yeah, I don't like that number. Doesn't surprise me.
that's a lot.
It is. But if you think about like how many people we had there supporting us and everything, yeah. Because like, and then their immediate family, of course, because like, so one guy is a translator,
Right.
Okay, you gotta take him, his wife, and his kids out, and then his brother, his wife, and his kids,
Right.
and so on and so forth, because they'll just go down to kill the next family member or whatever. So, like, you can see how that branches out and trees out very, very quickly, into pretty astronomical numbers. Now, I know other countries have said that they're willing to take in X amount as well. I think Canada said something, and
Well, here's where I'm going to go with this. I think that is a legitimate reason to accept refugees because, we kind of put them in the situation, right?
Yeah.
We went into their country and all that. But here's my point. This whole thing during the Obama administration, just bringing in all these people, well, a lot of that was not legitimate. So it's best to save our resources and our ability to accept refugees for instances like this when it is legitimate.
Well,
because we did the same thing in Central America in the 80s. Like we kind of caused some of the, we didn't cause it, but in Southeast Asia. It's not that we caused it, but we were involved in it, right? Yeah. So we bore some of the responsibility. So same thing here.
And we do bear a moral responsibility for those people that we recruited to help us. Like it would be absolutely a horribly wrong thing to be like, well, you're on your own, fuck off.
Yes.
And then they die. Like I wouldn't want to live with that on my conscience.
Yeah.
I get it. Like Syria refugees is a whole nother story because we had nothing to do with Syria.
Correct.
Right? We didn't destabilize Syria. We didn't cause any of that. That's a different scenario because we didn't destabilize the country. We didn't just go in and knock out the existing government and then leave a vacuum for some brutal people. And I would even say, like, you go back to as far as Somali. Like we had a humanitarian involvement with that country, but like and there definitely was humanitarian need, but like if you want to talk about refugees, which were higher on my list, the ones that were actually allied with us.
Yes.
Not that I want to see necessarily Somali people suffer, but like if I got to choose one or the other, right? Well, I mean, other than Ilhan Omar, brother fucker. But she could suffer. But I can't stand her. But
no.
And we did the same thing in Laos and Vietnam. They assisted us and gave us material support.
Absolutely.
And there's a reason why we allowed so many of them to come over to the United States is because of that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's Like, if you want to go anywhere or have any chance, in any kind of operation, whether, you agree with going in or not, sometimes you inherit these situations if you're in the leadership, or you're just on the other side and, you get outvoted, like whatever the reason is. If you decide you're going to put boots on the ground, you want to be able to say, like, trust us. We won't abandon you if it goes south. And what's really terrible about this whole situation is not only are the recent events in Afghanistan giving extreme pause to any country out there, any people of the world to maybe not trust us and throw in on our side and just try and stay as neutral as possible. Like, it's not only that, and that's terrible on its own. Now we have, like, our own NATO allies and shit going, like, you kind of hung our people out to dry too. Like, you hear these reports, like, world leaders are begging. You have world leaders like Macron in France, France, Germany, England. They all they came out and fucking blasted Biden.
And hey, that happens. And what happens every time you get a Republican in office in the White House? It's like, oh, you're, the reputation of the United States and all that type of stuff. Yet,
yeah, this is something he specifically ran on.
Yes, he did. Yes,
he was going to restore dignity to the White House.
Dignity. There's a key
and
word,
and respectability and to our allies overseas and everything. And if you look at what our allies are saying, they're not saying very kind things about Biden right now. And and that's the difference between, like, actually, like, following up your words with actions and then just kind of, like, talking a big game and having opposite politics, right? Like the mean tweets and shit, like, versus actual actions. And these actual actions have hurt our reputation far more than, Trump's Charlotte speech or anything related to that. Like, which do you think has done more damage to the United States reputation? Because when it comes down to it, like, leaders come and go, but, like, now these other countries have got to go. Like, that's a really stark reminder. Like, yeah, leaders come and go, and our allies might not be our allies in 4 years.
Look at this. 9 hours ago, State Department not prepared to say whether Taliban should get seat at United Nations.
Right.
I can say it. No. I mean, no. And who gives a fuck about the United Nations, number one?
Well, no, what a feckless, worthless organization that is.
Absolutely.
What a waste of money.
Right
Again,
before,
it's these State Department, chuckle fucks. Just, like, they like meeting and they like playing diplomacy. They don't like doing diplomacy. They're all just playing house.
Right before that, Psaki says she can't guarantee every American will be able to leave Afghanistan after deadline. So, yeah, we were talking about that earlier. Not a surprise. Because, she's basically saying, this has been executed so incompetently that, no, we can't guarantee that everyone's going to get out. Sorry.
No. Yeah, like, well, I mean, what else can she say, really? And, like, there's you can't even if you wanted to make that promise, I mean, could you legitimately, like, if your president is, like, dead set against being there, like, and, like, we were just discussing, like, what scenario in your head can you imagine us going back into there?
Yeah.
What did this president say anyway? And I really can't think of any. I mean, short of them getting a nuclear missile or something, like, I don't know. So, like, yeah, there's no way they can guarantee, because, like, we're just going to ignore it, or we're just going to, like, sweep it under the rug, hope it goes away. Tell the Taliban, hey, do what you need to do, but don't publicize it, man. Don't make me look bad. Come on, man.
$5 donation from Melissa Lord. Hey, Tim, great stream. Love you. And Greg, too. LOL.
Oh, thank you.
Well, yeah, I mean, Greg, the top panelist, the underrated panelist. And Trey says, honestly, Miss Trump, this shit didn't happen. It's kind of like when you get a new boss at work, right? And
careful what you get wish for, man.
It's quite clear after 2 weeks that the new boss is completely incompetent.
Yeah, worse than the one you had before. Yes,
and then you get this weird feeling like things have changed, and you're afraid because there's that authority, that command presence isn't there, and you're like, oh man, the old boss might have been an asshole or whatever, but at least he was competent and he knew what to tell us to do, And again, I wasn't the hugest fan of him. I voted for him because he was the lesser of two evils.
I think his policy was wrong on Afghanistan as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think he would have. Me personally, I think leaving was a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
However, I think that he would have left much more competently than.
I agree. Yeah.
Because you remember, they keep going like, oh, the original date was May. The original date was May, and then we delayed it up until this point. It's like, okay, so Biden, you had the election was November 3rd. All right, we'll say December 1st because had to wait a while to find out the results, right?
Yeah.
You begin your transition team, and now, mind you, when you're the presidential candidate, you're getting the briefings the same as the current president. So when you're a presidential candidate, you get, obviously they give you the security clearance, and then you're getting the same briefings for intelligence briefings as the president. So when you transition, you're up to speed, right? You know what's going on. Because these intelligence briefings are basically fact. They're not strategy discussions or things like that. So it wouldn't be like an issue for the campaign or anything. It's just, here's the basic information. They have this amount of troops here. They have this amount of troops here. You have all that time from, we'll just say December 1st, as you do your transition team, and you're starting to put your people in place, and you're hiring your advisors. A lot of them are coming on from your campaign anyway, right? And it's not like these advisors are all green. Like almost his entire group of advisors around him are people that worked for the Obama administration.
Absolutely. So yeah.
These guys aren't green and new to the position and needed to some time to face it. You had basically 8 months, 8 full months to figure out what you were going to do and how you were going to do it. So this idea is like, well, it just happened so recently, I had no idea. It's like, no, dude, you had 8 months to assess the situation. So regardless of what situation you inherited from the previous administration, whatever deals, whatever, anything like that, you were getting the information as early December. You were able to make policy changes as early as end of January. And so you had from January, you had 7 months to come up with a plan, regardless of the decisions that the previous administration made.
Or just it proves,
or negotiate a different deal.
Yeah, that proves the incompetence that they didn't.
Right.
They waited till the last second and said, "Well, we haven't done anything, but the plan was to do this, so we're going to do it." That's the biggest hallmark of your typical bureaucrat. We're doing it because it's the policy. We're doing it because that's what we said we were going to do. Not let's reassess and see if this is still the right decision. Have conditions changed? Were conditions ever correct to begin with? This is the policy. This is the plan, so we have to do it. It's kind of like Michael Scott driving the car into the lake in that episode because that's what the GPS said to do, even though reality and what was
GPS
right in
told
front
him
of him.
Turn right, and he just
Yep. That's the equivalent of what they've done. Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
What's up,
just for no damn good I can't fathom not having some sort of idea. I guess it all hinges on the fact that you naively believed that it was just going to be hunky dory, or you just didn't care. And I think that deep down, truly, Biden just didn't fucking care. And there's a history there that kind of like that. I'm not bringing that out of left field, and it's not because I'm a Republican and he's a Democrat and everything. Like his statements regarding Afghanistan, going all the way back to the surge. He opposed the surge in Afghanistan. He opposed the Bin Laden raid. He wanted to get out of there like way earlier than anybody else.
Yeah.
And if you go back and you listen to what he says and how he says it, it's a very good indicator of that basically his foreign policy expertise is like, I don't care. I'm not putting U.S. troops there, and they shouldn't be there. Everybody should just mind their own business and do their own stuff. It's the Afghans' job and everything like that. And you can go all the way back to that. A good example actually is the Paul Ryan and Biden debate.
From when?
And here, I'm gonna share that.
From
2011. Yeah, when he was it was Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan on the presidential ticket against Barack Obama and obviously Biden, and so they had the vice presidential debate. Right, the debate that almost nobody watches. But
I used to, back in the early 2000s.
I don't like the debates because I hate the time limits and the gotcha shit. And like, there's just nobody has an opportunity to actually like explore and explain their policies. Oh, you know what? I didn't share it. Fucking audio.
That book, that movie and book sounds interesting. Quietly Quiet. So what this is about is a guy hijacks a missile complex, and he kind of says, unless you release some information on Vietnam, I'm going to start World War III. I think I've mentioned this book before, but Vince Flynn, who passed away, it's been about 10 years ago, he wrote those sort of Tom Clancy style books, but his was more about one guy that was like a CIA assassin called Mitch Rapp. And the first book didn't have Mitch in it, but it had some of the same characters. And what happens is these ex-Navy SEALs, they basically hold Congress hostage by committing all these acts and stuff.
Can you hear that?
Hear what? Hello?
Thunder and lightning.
Yeah, we can hear that. Now that you mention it. And anyway, unless they pass like a balanced budget and all this stuff, it's called term limits. And unless they pass a bill that institutes term limits on members of Congress and stuff like that. So kind of the same concept that someone is kind of, they're tired of it and they hold the government hostage to institute some policies they agree with, which, it's not something we can agree with, but it's interesting that someone would take it that far. What have we got here?
This is Joe Biden 10 years ago debating Paul Ryan, and this specific part of the debate is foreign policy.
Hold on,
and specifically Afghanistan.
This is episode 2, Palpatine versus Revenge of the Sith Palpatine from today. So that's
there's a couple things to pay attention to here. Not of course, including what they're actually saying.
Yeah.
But pay attention to like his cognitive ability just 10 years ago, and contrast that in your head to Joe Biden.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Look at him. He looks completely different.
He looks he looks very, very different. But then also pay attention, like, even back then, his demeanor whenever he got challenged on anything was always anger.
Yeah.
And like it comes out in this one.
Let's move on to Afghanistan.
Can I get into that?
I'd like to move on to Afghanistan, please.
And
that's one of the biggest expenditures this country has made in dollars and, more importantly, in lives. We just passed the sad milestone of losing 2,000 U.S. troops there in this war. More than 50 of them were killed this year by the very Afghan forces we are trying to help. Now, we've reached the recruiting goal for Afghan forces. We've degraded Al Qaeda. So tell me, why not leave now? What more can we really accomplish? Is it worth more American lives?
We don't want to lose the gains we've gotten. We want to make sure that the Taliban does not come back in and give Al Qaeda a safe haven. We agree with the administration on their 2014 transition. Look, when I think about Afghanistan, I think about the incredible job that our troops have done. You've been there more than the two of us combined. First time I was there in 2002, it was amazing to me what they were.
Okay, and for just a little bit of, again, timeline, because it's 10 years ago, the troop surge in Afghanistan has already taken place, and they already started drawing down from the surge numbers. And what he's talking about there is further drawdown of forces in 2014.
They were facing. And I went to the Arghandab Valley in Kandahar before the surge. I sat down with a young private in the 82nd from the Menominee Indian Reservation who would tell me what he did every day, and I was in awe. And to see what they had in front of them, and then to go back there in December, to go throughout Helmand with the Marines, to see what they had accomplished, it's nothing short of amazing. What we don't want to do is lose the gains we've gotten. Now, we've disagreed from time to time on a few issues.
Oh, sorry,
we'll count
12.
The recommendations from our commanders, General Petraeus, Admiral Mullen, on troop levels throughout this year's fighting season. We've been skeptical about negotiations with the Taliban, especially while they're shooting at us. But we want to see the 2014 transition be successful. And that means we want to make sure our commanders have what they need to make sure that it is successful so that this does not once again become a launching pad for terrorists.
Martha,
let's keep our eye on the ball. The reason I've been in and out of Afghanistan and Iraq 20 times. I've been up in the Konar Valley. I've been throughout that whole country, mostly in a helicopter and sometimes in a vehicle. The fact is, we went there for one reason: to get those people who killed Americans, Al Qaeda. We've decimated Al Qaeda Central. We have eliminated Osama bin Laden. That was our purpose. And in fact, in the meantime, what we said we would do, we would help train the Afghan military. It's their responsibility to take over their own security. That's why with 49 of our allies in Afghanistan, we've agreed on a gradual drawdown, so we're out of there by the year 2014. My friend.
Yeah, fact check, future site. We're not out of there in 2014, were we?
No.
And the governors say it's based on conditions, which means it depends. It does not depend for us. It is the responsibility of the Afghans to take care of their own security.
Right there. Did you catch that? He was criticizing the Romney camp because they wanted to have a goal of 2014 based on conditions. And Biden's saying, fuck that. Doesn't matter. Hard date. We're leaving no matter what.
Yeah, just like we were talking about 10 minutes ago.
Right. But this is this 10 years ago, and this was his opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So this idea that he's just dealing with the hand he got dealt with Trump. No, fuck no.
We have trained over 315,000, mostly without incident. There have been more than 24 cases of green on blue where Americans have been killed. If we do not, if the measures the military has taken do not take hold, we will not go on joint patrols. We will not train in the field. We'll only train in the army bases that exist there. But we are leaving. We are leaving in 2014, period. And in the process, we're going to be saving over the next 10 years another $800 billion. We've been in this war for over a decade. The primary objective is almost completed. Now all we're doing is putting the Kabul government in a position to be able to maintain their own security. It's their responsibility, not America's.
What conditions could justify staying, Congressman Ryan?
We don't want to stay. We want, look, one of my best friends in Janesville, a reservist, is at a forward operating base in eastern Afghanistan right now. Our wives are best friends. Our daughters are best friends. I want him and all of our troops to come home as soon and safely as possible. We want to make sure that 2014 is successful. That's why we want to make sure that we give our commanders what they say they need to make it successful. We don't want to extend beyond 2014. That's the point we're making. You know, if it was just this, I feel like we would be able to call this a success, but it's not. What we are witnessing as we turn on our television screens these days is the absolute unraveling of the Obama foreign policy. Problems are growing at home, but problems are growing abroad, but jobs aren't growing here at home.
Let me go back to this. He says we're absolutely leaving in 2014. You're saying that's not an absolute, but you won't talk about what conditions would justify.
Do you know why we say that? Because we don't want to broadcast to our enemies, put a date on your calendar, wait us out, and then come back.
But you agree with the
timeline. We do.
Same thing with Iraq. Same thing with Iraq.
But what any administration will do in 2013 is assess the situation to see how best to complete this timeline. What we do not want to do is give our allies reason to trust us less, and our enemies more. We don't want to embolden our enemies to hold and wait out for us and then take over the
Martha, that's a bizarre
That's why we want to make sure. No,
that's a bizarre statement. Since 49 of our allies, hear me, 49 of our allies signed on to this position.
And we're reading that they want
49 of our allies said out in 2014. It's the responsibility of the Afghans. We have other responsibilities.
Do you think this timeline, but we have soldiers and Marines, we have Afghan forces murdering our forces over there. The Taliban is, do you think, taking advantage of this timeline?
Well, look, the Taliban, what we found out, and you saw it in Iraq, Martha, unless you set a timeline, Baghdad, in the case of Iraq, and Kabul, in the case of Afghanistan, will not step up. They're happy to let us continue to do the job. International security forces do the job. The only way they step up is say,
how did that work out
we're leaving.
2 weeks ago?
We've trained you.
Yeah.
Step up. Step up.
Let me go
That's
back.
the only way it works.
Let me go back to the surge troops.
How did that work out in Afghanistan?
Yeah, Boba Fett. The other guy is Paul Ryan. He's a congressman from Wisconsin.
Is he originally from Wisconsin?
Yeah.
He kind of has a southern twang to his voice.
I don't know if he was born in Wisconsin, but he's from Janesville. That was his district. He became Speaker of the House, and was the vice presidential candidate in 2012 against. He was the vice president on Romney's ticket. But yeah, so you get a very good idea here of like Biden's attitude towards the whole thing, and it hasn't changed. And like all you need to do is like watch this video again, and then in your head change the dates to August 31st, 2021.
Yep.
The Afghan, like, he didn't care about anything, and he's just like, fuck it, we're leaving. And you have to give a date, otherwise they'll never step up. Well, we gave a date, and guess what happened? They didn't step up anyway. Is that a reason we should leave there perpetually? And I want to correct things. We did draw down troops in 2014. Like, we substantially reduced the amount of troops that we had in Afghanistan, and our allies did as well in 2014. And then we left, several thousand there in support roles as well. Like nothing to the level of, the 2,500 that we got earlier this year. And then obviously now, whatever it's going to be, 0, I guess, is the goal. Which coincidentally was not candidate Biden's position in 2019, leading up to, during the Democratic primary season for the 2020 elections. He had a different position, and that was his position at the time, was we need to leave support troops in there, a couple thousand, I think is what he said on Face the Nation.
Well, it's hilarious that he talks about wanting to do this to save money. You almost want to laugh.
Right, $800 billion over the course of the next, however many years that he's counting it, and it's like fuck, man, we've blown that like way the fuck out of the water without even a blink of the eye, and we don't like, and the idea is like, well, at least we're spending it at home. It's like, yeah, but okay, so some of the stuff that the money that we're spending in Afghanistan, or that we were spending in the in Afghanistan, didn't 100% go to Afghanis. Like American companies were over there, they got money, they brought it home. American workers were over there, they got paid, they're bringing it, they're sending it home to their families. So this idea, like, you invest in them, like you buy missiles or you buy planes for a war, and then you go use them somewhere, like, but it's still Boeing that made the fucking planes, right?
Yes.
So this idea that it's all 100% overseas spending is kind of silly, but the idea is yeah, like, oh, it's a money issue. No, like, you can hear his disdain, the way he's talking there about, like, he like fucking hates Afghanis. I mean, legitimately, like, it sounds like he just hates their guts. He's like, these vermin, like, they need to mind their own fucking shithole country. We're out of here, regardless of the situation on the ground. Because his whole zinger against the Romney campaign was, oh, they're not going to commit to a hard date. They want it to be based on conditions on the ground.
Yeah, there's definitely malice in his voice.
Which is the dumbest position. Like, regardless of what's going on, you're going to commit to this course of action. Like, you're not willing to be flexible or change course or react to the situation. That was his position then, and it's his position now, 10 years later, in the same country. And that, like, it doesn't matter, what agreements were in place under the previous administration. Like, you can go back here and see how he really feels. And he's pretty clear on that. I don't know if you want to watch more of it, but because there's not that many more minutes, but they go and argue about the fact that they withdrew kind of early. They drew down troops in the surge in kind of the tail end of the fighting season, rather than waiting till the fighting season was over. And Paul Ryan actually, like, stops and kind of, like, explains to the audience, I guess, like, look, you got to understand, fighting is seasonal over there. Because in the winter, the mountain passes get filled with snow and they can't cross. They can't leave their caves and cross and fight and then go back to their caves, because that's what they were doing at that time.
Mm-hmm.
The kind of guerrilla warfare tactics don't work in winter nearly as well. It's not like there's no fighting in winter. It's just they're very less effective in winter. And that was one of the things that the Romney camp, and in particular Paul Ryan, was saying, is like, look, we should have waited until the end of the fighting season and then drawn down from the surge levels. Because you have the initial levels, then you have the surge levels, and then you have a drawdown from the surge, and then you have a drawdown in 2014, and then you have further drawdowns under the Trump administration. So, like, we never went from, like, 80 to, like, 8,
Yeah.
It was a progressive reduction in forces that was planned and carried out. Like, okay, we're going to leave this many, we're leaving these troops. But you just look at this current administration, of, like, we left just the equipment alone. Just, like, you can't even, like, never mind the human cost, the cost of our reputation, and all those other things. The fact that we let people down, in Afghanistan, and subjected them now to a brutal life. Just the military assets alone, and be like, we couldn't either blow it up or take it with us before. Like, why did we leave all these helicopters? Like, why does the Taliban have Apache helicopters right now?
Yeah, and that's it. That's the cost. It's not the value of the equipment. It's what are they doing with it?
Well, and the thing is like, okay,
what is the enemy doing with the appropriated equipment? That's the cost.
And the long-term risk, the long-term cost, isn't even, some goat fucker from the mountain regions of Afghanistan jumping in the helicopter and cruising around with it and firing at people, right?
Mm-hmm.
The issue is that they're going to sell the fucking thing to the fucking Chinese. We're going to reverse engineer our military tech.
Right.
All that tech we left there can be reverse engineered. Maybe not 100% effectively, but Jesus Christ. Like, do you think that the Chinese are like, hey, we'll give you hey, goat fucker, we'll give you 20 more goats if you give us that heli. And they're like, fuck yeah, that's
it's 72 goats, Greg. It's 72
yeah,
goats.
Whatever. yes. very, very young little goats. But so, I mean, there's so many things that are botched with this whole thing, like across the board. But I found this, and I rewatched. I of course watched this debate live when it happened in 2012, but I watched it. I watched this video again today just to kind of like, and it's a good glimpse of Joe Biden's mentality, the way he thinks, even back then, and how angry, like the tone and this idea of like these fucking people, like
it's not only that, but it shows that he's, as I was speaking to earlier, he's the consummate bureaucrat. We are gonna set the date, and we're sticking to the plan, no matter how ill-advised it may be. And that was even back in Iraq when people were saying to pull out, and what was it, 2006, 7, 8, whatever. We got to set the date, and anyone with any sense says, well, that date is the date that the enemy is banking on. So when you set a date
they're just
like
gonna
that,
hide, just exactly what Paul said. Paul Ryan said, they're just going to hide out and wait up the clock.
Yes,
and that's exactly what they've done here. They did then, and they're going to do that. They're doing here now. That's exactly what.
And this shows why not only the way he was talking, and the obvious malice in his voice, but just the decision that we made here shows this latent racism, because they're too dumb. If we do set a date, they're too dumb to capitalize on that. They won't know what that means. Look what happened in one day.
Clay, like, okay, the Apache, the Apaches are 40 years old, but like the computer tech on there, the crypto tech, the communication tech.
Yeah, they're not using analog shit.
These aren't unmodified off the line from 40 years ago. These they get upgrades and shit like that. So yes, the initial design may, or like, I don't know if they're 40 years old. I believe that.
40, I think.
But of course they've been updated, and they have modern tech on them. I mean, just the computer technology in 40 years. Like, I sure hope they're not running that thing with like a SX, 16 megahertz Intel processor.
With analog controls and all that shit.
Yeah, like, they definitely they can fly helicopters, but like even our missiles in there, like, I don't know what kind of ordinances were with them. Like, I don't know. Like, we can't really even get good information on that. Like, how many pieces of equipment, how many dollars worth of equipment, and it's not the dollar amount. Of course, it sucks. It's stupid to lose that amount of money, because it's a stupid amount of money. But like, the fact is like, it's either going to be in bad actors' hands, or that those bad actors are going to be able to sell that equipment to other bad actors.
Yeah.
But of course they update they do go through upgrades.
I want to talk about something else. I want to talk about the Democrat Party in the last couple of days. But first, Melissa sent $2 and she said, thoughts on Spidey trailer. Here's what I'll tell you. When this is over, go to Rhino's Casual Rage, because that was the first thing we talked about last night, right? That was the first topic.
Yeah. Like, once we got kind of settled in and everything,
we'll have to send you the link though, because I think he unlists those streams for some reason. So we'll have to.
You can find it on Twitter too.
Yeah, but I don't think she's on Twitter. But if Blake's still in the chat, like, through the Casual Rage, we talked about it for an hour, and we pretty much dismantled it. And I think we brought Rhino over to our side, if I'm not mistaken. That's the sense I got.
Yeah, we kind of excoriated at least I did, like the dangling keys and the of the cameos and the fact
member berries.
The premise of the movie seems like utterly stupid.
Yeah, so definitely it was a good conversation and stuff, constructive.
Yeah, that was later.
So
He claimed that he had a meltdown. But
yeah, that was the Star Wars part.
Of course, it's always the Star Wars part.
So yeah, definitely watch. I'd say watch the whole thing, but the first hour was pretty much Spider-Man. Thanks, Blake. Thank you. So yeah, bookmark that, Melissa. Not that we don't want to talk about it now, but it's in there, and it was a good conversation. So I did another tweet today, right? And a lot of members of the Democrat Party are beginning to, like the opportunists they are, starting to swarm on this thing and turn on the president because they see that it is politically convenient. They're preparing for the midterms and all that stuff a year from now. Oh, we'll be in election season a year from now, full swing. So this doesn't happen very often. I don't remember too many Democrats turning on Obama at any point during his 2 terms. But here we are 6-7 months into the first term, hopefully the only term, of President Joe Biden and his own party. Some of them are already starting to turn on him. We had that, let me see who it was. There's so many of them and they all kind of blend together to me. Da 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 da. I did this around lunchtime. Let's see. It must have been later than that. Son of a bitch, where's that tweet at? Here it is. Representative Susan Wild, Democrat from Pennsylvania, she tweeted this out 2 days ago. Although it is clear to me, let's go back to the original. I am devastated at the loss of U.S. service members and Afghan civilians in today's horrific attack, and I'm thinking of their families. Our country feels their grief, and we will never forget their loved ones' sacrifices. Although it is clear to me that we could not continue to put American service members in danger for an unwinnable war, I also believe that the evacuation process appears to have been egregiously mishandled. So a little bit careful there with appears to have been, but yeah, that's a definite criticism of the office of the president. So that's what they're doing now. They're going to start, prepping for a year from now to say, hey, because this isn't heading in the right direction, this whole situation with Afghanistan, it's heading in the wrong direction. So that's what they're going to do. They're going to be able to say, a year ago, I was calling out the president. I was calling out this whole withdrawal process as being inept and mishandled. So vote for me. Because I think they're all predicting, and their advisors are predicting, that a year from now, the approval numbers for this president and for this party are going to be low. So if they can come in a year from now and say, hey, I was calling this out like on week 1, so vote for me, keep me in office. That's exactly what they're doing. They have no principles. Now, if they had come in 2 months ago in June and said, hey, the plan is to start pulling people out in late July, we don't think that's the right decision, then maybe it's genuine, but not a week after. Political opportunists is what they are. They're only turning on him because buyer's remorse. Yeah, and I'm, from the general...
It's political expedience.
Well, yeah, for the politicians, but for the general public, I don't see a whole heck of a lot of that yet. I think people are too stubborn and they won't admit that they're wrong on something political because of the polarization.
Didn't he drop like 10 points in the recent poll? That was pretty.
But polls are anonymous.
They are. to a degree, because I mean they'll ask you what your party affiliation is and everything like that. But
well, what I mean,
politicians.
There's a difference between answering a poll and blasting out your opinion on social media, because you don't want all your friends to think that, oh no, you're a
Trumper.
Criticize. Yeah, you're a Trumper, right? Just because you criticize a bad decision by the current president.
No, and what's really interesting about the timing of this, I mean, of course, they're reacting now because it's in the moment. They're reacting to the news just like everybody else.
Yeah.
But it's also, so if you're a Democrat and you're looking, okay, November 2022, which is, 14 months away, right?
That's about right, yeah.
Yeah, like these elections in the House come up awful damn quick. And right now, their majority in the House is like a couple votes, right? They don't have a very wide margin in the House as it is. So they're very, very vulnerable in the House of Representatives if you got a D next to your name. The interesting thing, though, is that to come out swinging against the Biden administration at this point, if you're a member of Congress, what you're doing, depending on the district you're in, you are risking getting primaried early next spring. So you're like, oh, the election's a year and a half away. The primaries for these seats, if they're going to get primaried, those are going to start occurring as early as spring. So like this idea, like, oh, the elections are far off, they're really not. But this, and I would kind of correct a little bit of like what you said earlier. Like a lot of Democrats did run against. Or run away. They didn't run against, but they ran away from Obama in 2012, and then 2014, and because more particularly 2014, because 2014 was a wave election for Republicans.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And in 2010 was a wave election for them as well as a result of the Obamacare vote. So a lot of
but I just don't remember.
There.
I don't remember a lot of public criticism and stuff, especially against a black president. I just don't remember that.
No.
And I was deep into the politics and stuff,
Yeah, well, and I think they're more public than they were even back then too, because of social media's influence has grown so much. So there's a little bit of that, but yeah, it is very interesting. You're seeing people, but it's not just the Afghani thing. Just talking politics. So you have. Koof is not going very well, right? He was going to eliminate the virus, right? That was like his whole thing. He kept saying it over and over again. They're going to defeat the virus. It's not defeated. And come fall, like I suspect that we're going to see some pretty astronomical numbers and spikes in case counts. That doesn't necessarily mean anybody should panic because cases aren't the relevant number anymore, and they haven't been for a while. But the case counts, if you look at the way the trend was last year, and you look at the spread during the late summer, the numbers were way, way down. And then come September, they stayed fairly low. And then October, they started creeping up. And in November, they started skyrocketing. And why is that? Well, it's seasonal.
Weather. Yeah, colder weather, yeah.
Right. So now you go into that colder weather season with Delta. I think it's very likely that we are going to get into lockdowns again. I think some states will definitely lock down because they're going to panic over those numbers, and it's going to be again slow the spread and all that jazz. So like his numbers aren't going to look good there. They're not looking good on the economic front. They're not looking good on the inflation front, the border front. Like they're not racking up a whole lot. The only wins that he can claim are the spending bills. But beyond that, like country's not in a great spot. So there's a lot of good reasons to not exactly want to throw in too hardcore with the current administration because they're not winning very much. They're not doing a particularly good job on any front. And a lot of it's self-inflicted. The border situation is completely self-inflicted.
Well,
the Afghanistan issue, self-inflicted.
Recency matters when it comes to politics, right?
Yep.
But something like this, I think a lot of the Democrat politicians, I think they realize that this is going to last. This isn't something easily forgotten. They have video footage and lots of it, right? That can be used. So even when you go into the primaries for the midterms, I think it's still going to be an issue. And
Afghanistan definitely.
And yeah, and
because we are gonna see videos come out of there that are going to be pretty horrific, just like we did in Iraq.
Well, when you get into that and you're in a district and you have someone running against the incumbent, I mean, how do you disagree with them and support the president, let's say, on Afghanistan? How do you do that? Both of you are probably going to have the same position. And if there is a candidate in that particular district that has the opposite opinion, I don't think they're going to have a lot of support from the electorate. So I think Afghanistan's here to stay.
I think it definitely is going to bleed over because then the other problem is like just on the large scale geopolitics, right? Pull back not just from Afghanistan but go wider. The implications, like if you let me put it this way, if you're listening to this now or on a replay and you live in Taiwan, and you're a U.S. citizen or a citizen of Canada or whatever, get out now. Because this administration projects nothing but weakness on the world stage. I mean, just look at the way he reacted in that press conference. Like when he slowly shuffles away, looking all meek and not taking questions. Or when he does take questions, he's like, they gave me a list of the people I need to call. Like, he does that, and he does that all the time now. And he says, like, they gave me a list of who I'm going to call on. Like, and so naturally you're like, well, who's they? Who? Like, it would be one thing to say, like, hey, I took notes of who I wanted to call. Let me refer to my notes. But he always said it's they, like it's some nebulous person in the background. Like, okay, like who's the president? Who's the president, Joe? Who's giving you orders on who to call? Aren't you the boss? No, they could advise you, but then you don't say that. But he does. And then when he put his head in his hands when Ducey was asking him and kind of grilling him, it was pathetic. It looked pathetic. Other people in the world, other world leaders are looking at that and going, holy Christ, this guy's weak as fuck. Like, we cannot stand by America because this guy, we can't trust him.
Here's what it is.
This guy's weak.
Some people, a lot of the people that would vote for him, they see actions like that and the whole meekness and all that. They see it as, that's a good leader because it's thoughtful and
it's like he cares. That's
exactly. And confidence.
It's a virtue signal. Like, I care. Oh, he cares.
And confidence is seen as being self-assured about the decisions you make. That's seen as arrogance, right? And not having any kind of consideration that you may be wrong and stuff like that. That's what the people that vote for Biden see that is. They see it as strength and not a weakness. But guess what matters? What is not just the enemy, but what do our allies see it as?
They see it just nothing but unadulterated fucking
weakness. Yes.
And they already know because they met the guy, right? Remember those great optics we were getting out of the G7 summit when he went to Europe?
Yeah.
Where his wife was kind of like having to oh no, Joe, come over here now. And when like Boris Johnson from the UK is introducing people and he's like, oh, you forgot about this guy. And it's like, he just mentioned him 2 guys ago. And Boris is like, yeah, I already mentioned him, Joe. Like they look at him as this addled, weak. Pussy. Yeah, Samuel, you got it right. Like, so if you're an adversary, if you're China right now, right, you're looking at the United States under this president and going, shit, like we are, like, it was unlikely that we were going to intervene to protect Taiwan anyway. But now it's like fucking green light. Go ahead. Take it. Like, what are we going to do? What is Biden going to do? He's going to go and give a speech that, you know, the people of Taiwan have the responsibility to protect their country. It's not I'm not committing any troops there. That's their job. You know, that's his attitude. And the fact that he's just reeking of just frailty and weakness. Now, contrast, like, you know, if it doesn't matter whether or not you like Trump or not, right? But when Trump gave a speech the same day before, like, the day that the Marines died or the suicide bombers attacked, right? Trump gave a speech, and it wasn't like a political speech. It was a speech that a former, dang,
wow,
yeah, may lightning strike me if I'm wrong. I shouldn't say that, but yeah, that was pretty close. I lost my train of thought now, but like, he gave a speech, and you know, it was like, you know, our hearts are with you, you know, the families of the military, you know, it was. I don't want to say like the standard speech, but it kind of was the standard speech. And you look at the energy level he had and the forcefulness and just the attitude, the demeanor, the projection of confidence. And then you compare it to Joe's. And it's not even comparable. It's like, which one? Because honestly, both guys kind of had the same position when it came to Afghanistan. I think Trump would have done it more competently, but like both of them kind of had the same position when it came to Afghanistan. So all other things being equal, like which guy would you rather have in charge? And I think a lot of people are just like, yeah, give me the orange man, because he seems to be aware of what's going on and able to like react to it without having to take a nap first.
So Blake stole my analogy I was going to bring up about all these Democrats turning on Biden about the shark smelling blood. So thanks a lot, Blake.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. I guess it's good that great minds think alike. Moses.
Well, and the thing is incompetent as he is, like, he may have picked Kamala for all the wrong reasons, pure tokenism, right? But what a genius pick that turned out to be. If you're Joe Biden, not for the country, but if you're Joe Biden and don't want to get 25th amendmented out of there, new verb, I can't think of another Democrat that he could have put on the ran with
that you want less.
That you would actually want less. It'd be like the weak, pathetic old man who can't get a sentence out and is being led around. Like, I would rather him than her.
Mm-hmm.
And like, honestly, like I believe that if it wasn't Harris as VP, like right now, there would already be serious conversations about 25th Amendment or impeach, but more likely 25th Amendment, because then you don't necessarily need Congress because at this point they control both chambers.
Correct.
So
Correct.
They would have to initiate impeachments against their own party's leader, but the 25th Amendment, like there's a clear case for it, but the man is not there.
I mean, look at the video you showed us.
Yeah.
From 9 years ago, almost exact, right? 9 years ago. There's a stark difference there in the way he appears and the way he behaves.
Night and day. I think he still behaves like a angry person. Like anytime he actually gets like a difficult question from the press,
but he could make coherent thoughts.
He gets angry. He's not even like Trump, like, yeah, fake news, but like he gets pissed.
Yeah, but he was making coherent thoughts in that debate and stuff. I didn't agree with them, but at least they were coherent thoughts. Now he can't even get through a sentence, like you said, before he trails off. And what was I saying?
Just go back to his speech yesterday and watch how he opened it. It was like, it was rambling, chaotic, nonsensical, and again, weak. Like you're addressing the nation after after 14 Marines died in a terrorist attack, and like that's your opener. Like,
that was 3 or 4 days ago, man.
That was pretty bad too. But everybody, it's so weird because people think he's this empathetic, nice old man, and it's like the evidence is overwhelming that he's actually quite the opposite. He feels go back again, that video I showed, and you can go to it on YouTube, just search Vice Presidential Debate 2012. He has nothing but disdain for the people of Afghanistan. You can see it. You can see he's seething. Like the look, the expression on his face, and the way he's talking, and the tone of his voice. He just like, ugh. That's their job. I'm not doing anything. And we stopped it before we played the rest of it, but they go into an exchange about the drawdown. And that was kind of illustrating it, like you really see more of his like, yeah, fuck them. They're Afghanis. That's their problem. Kind of. It's like, well, that doesn't really jive with the nice Uncle Joe thing that the press and the DNC were trying to sell us a year ago.
Yeah.
Not a surprise, but elections have consequences.
I think we should what the hell was this? I want to do this Don Winslow video. We need to lighten it up with some fun. So he only posted this on Twitter.
Was this the Trump amnesia video?
Yeah. It must have, I guess it's not YouTube or anything. It's actually posted to Twitter itself.
Okay.
I just thought, we could do that for a little bit.
Sure.
Let's see here. Let's maximize that. And for anyone that hasn't seen this, it's, oh man, it's shit for brains.
Mm-hmm.
Lethal Lightning is in the house. What's going on, Lethal? Oh, he sent me $5 on Streamlabs, and he said, "Big old Bobby's boobies" is what he meant. Pushed together. Yeah, it's cool when they create a shelf kind of like this, and they use their other hand for something else. That's always good. But thanks for the $5. And by the way, we always do this at the end on Fridays, but he has a huge guest tomorrow on Full Aussie. It's Eric July, aka Young Ripa. So Blake usually posts the link to the show out there, so definitely show up for that. And as I told Rhino last night, let's hope that he can live up to me and Greg as a guest on that show, because pretty high bar there. I mean,
I think Young Ripa's up to
it. Yeah,
we got
sorry,
another Mac in the super chat.
Yeah, sorry I took so long to get to that. Sometimes it's over here and it's even up, but it's like I don't even notice when something pops up. They need some kind of alert. That would be badass. That flashes or something so that you see it. But sometimes some people are getting them every 10 seconds, so they don't really have to think about going back and looking. So, but yeah, thanks, Lethal. You're awesome. All good, Ben Lurkin. Yeah. So we're going to watch this. Let's kind of EFAP this because, man, this has been a pretty heavy stream. Let's just kind of bring it down a little bit. Can you hear this when I hit play? Did you hear that?
No.
Oh, I'm not sharing it yet. My bad. Here we go.
Yep.
Okay. So here we go. This guy, I don't even know who this guy is. Is he a liberal or is he a never Trumper Republican? Do you?
Super liberal.
Okay, I don't know who he is. Is he from a network or something, or just some commentator?
I'm not sure. But
okay, here we go.
I looked at some of his other tweets. Yeah.
Donald Trump and Mike Pompeo are trying to rewrite history. They're trying to gaslight the world.
This will go down.
Gaslight the world. That's great imagery right here, huh?
Yeah.
This will go down as one of the great military defeats of all time.
That was on August 21st. That was last week when he was in Coleman, Alabama.
Of all time.
But there is all this pesky video from 2020. Hey, Donald, stop the bullshit. We have receipts.
If, on the other hand, the Taliban abide by their promises, the United States will undertake a responsible, conditions-based troop withdrawal.
Okay, that's the end of the video. That's the end of the video.
If. Yeah.
Even then, a responsible conditions-based.
Mm-hmm.
All we saw was a huge tactical error.
Condition-based
troop withdrawal. Responsible. What happened a few weeks ago was not responsible.
That withdrawal means that our men and women in uniform will incur fewer risks, our financial burden will be eased, and our brave troops will return home. This is a hopeful moment.
I want to also thank and congratulate Secretary of State Pompeo and Secretary of Defense Mark Esper. And I'll be meeting personally with Taliban leaders in the not too distant future. So that's ISIS, red right there. And the bottom one is how it is today. The ISIS caliphate has been decimated. Nobody thought it was possible to do it this quickly.
We can confirm that a number of U.S. service members were killed in today's complex attack at Kabul.
Okay, here's what this is. This group that attacked the airport, it's called ISIS-K. Do you know what the K stands for?
Kabul.
Correct. So this is a different unit that probably banded together, from the remnants of the ones that they destroyed. And let me ask you this, Greg, how many terrorists does it take to make an impact? Very few, right?
In the case of this particular day, 2.
Yeah. So
this idea, like, you're talking about brand names for terrorist groups. Like any group of 5 like-minded nut jobs can group together and call themselves ISIS. It doesn't make his previous statement inaccurate. Like, even if they weren't called ISIS-K and they just went by ISIS, or they like, did anybody when Trump said that, did anybody like, oh, every last one on earth is eradicated, none exist anywhere, it's impossible? Like, no, nobody believed. Like you're taking them like ultra literally there.
Yes.
And it's like that, like, clearly, like, nobody can ever say like Al Qaeda is like, if there's one guy somewhere hiding in a cave, then you're lying. It's just deliberately misleading, which is, the point of this thing.
Yeah.
It's to deflect blame from the person in charge
to
the person who hasn't been in charge for the last 8 months.
Here we go.
Airport. We also know that a number of Afghans fell victim to this heinous attack. The worst news, Americans among the dead.
We defeated 100% of the ISIS caliphate. 100%. 100%.
This is almost like one of those during the Iraq War, one of those videos they had against Bush.
Yeah.
Almost like a Michael Moore type thing that dumbs everything down. And if you think that that's intelligent, you think that's relevant, you think it's nuanced, then you're an idiot. It's dumbed down to such a level.
Trump didn't say 99.998%. He said 100.
Mm-hmm.
So that means 100.
Yeah.
Got him. Gotcha. But I mean, the entire premise of this is just stupid because it's like, why? He's not in power. He hasn't been in power. Fucker can't even tweet.
You know what? This is almost like saying that, we have neo-Yazis, so you never defeated Hitler and Yahtzee Germany, right? That's basically it's so dumb.
Yeah.
And all the people out there retweeting this, thinking it's actually relevant and true. I mean, come on.
It's just it's TDS, and
it's vacuous.
They want to be able to pin this, on all the things that are happening now on their Orange Man bad, and like, okay, he's not in office, hasn't been in office. Who's the president?
Right.
Like, why are you going after the former president?
Right.
Like, I don't even care if he went after you guys. Like, he's the former president. Again, dude can't even tweet. He's been kicked off social media, for Christ's sake. He's not on Facebook. Like the only time he's in the news is when you guys put him there.
Yeah.
There's no reason to it's passing the buck.
Yeah.
It's just plain passing the buck. And again, it's conflating two different issues. The two issues were: one, should we leave? Two, how do we leave? Two different things. Should we leave? And I disagree with Trump and Biden on that issue.
Yeah, me too.
And
I agree with what Paul Ryan was saying in 2012.
Exactly. Two, how? The manner in which we are leaving. They're like, and every time this administration's asked about the how, they answer with, well, the why. It's because they can't answer the how. Or the answer isn't going to make them look good. It's deflecting. It's deliberately and intentionally dishonest. And, basically, like, it's a propaganda piece from the other side. The TDS people and the ones that are just going to be like, oh, it's not Biden's fault. Biden. Like, okay. I get it. You hate Trump. I guess you hate Trump so much that you're willing to let the next president embarrass the country, get people killed. That's how much you hate Trump. You hate Trump so much that you're willing to sacrifice U.S. and Afghani citizens to prove your point.
Well, that's how they make themselves feel important, to have a cause. Like, and what better cause can you have than someone that embodies everything that you hate, that you can direct all your vitriol toward? That's what they like to do. That's what they did from 2000 to 2008 or 9, whatever you want to call it. And it started from day one with selected, not elected, and then you move into unjust wars and all that shit. So that's what they like to do.
He lied. People died.
Yeah. Trying to find a tweet I made a few weeks ago about shit. It might have been a reply, so I'll never find it. But I was trying to figure out what is the media narrative going to be to try and deflect this back to the prior administration, this whole Afghanistan situation. But that video is completely shallow-minded, devoid of any kind of intellectual relevance. It's stupid. It's all it is. It's a Michael Moore with lower production values video. That's what it is.
It might as well have just had like a little tagline at the end. Is like, this ad funded by Jack Off Super PAC.
I know what we're going to talk about. Yeah, I just want to I'm making a weird connection here, but let's go ahead and do it anyway. For those that haven't heard, they finally revealed the identity of the Capitol cop who shot Ashley Babbitt, this Michael Byrd guy, if that's his real name. Is he? Does that mean he's the Birdman? You know, like Coco Beware. So he came out and he's doing all this weird self-congratulatory commentary and stuff, which is really weird. You know, that, hey, I shot someone dead that was, correct me if I'm wrong, but was she unarmed?
She was 100% unarmed.
Okay. So yeah, kind of weird that you're coming out and you're proud of yourself.
He's saying things like, I saved people's lives. And I'm like, but Ashley was the only one killed.
Yeah. Some people died of some heart attacks and shit like that, and natural causes. Drug overdose. Some suicides they blamed on it. But okay, the only person that died as a direct result of violence is Ashley Babbitt. So she was the only threat to democracy, apparently. There you go.
Right? Because to say that, I think the cops should be prosecuted? I don't think so. Technically he was doing his job. She was trespassing and climbing through a window. Do I think that the response was proportionate to the threat? No. Do I think the officer felt that could have a justifiable reason to believe that his life was in danger while she's climbing through the window? I don't think so. You really got to stretch to justify it as a justifiable shooting. Maybe not prosecutable, but definitely on the edge there.
Well, let's go beyond the legal part of it. This guy's a sociopath.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, come on. What if the people that had shot, what was the big Missouri one that went on? Was it
Martin?
No,
Brown.
That was Florida. Michael Brown was Baltimore, right?
No, Michael Brown was hands up, don't shoot.
I'm talking about the Missouri riots. Was that him?
Ferguson. Yeah, Michael Brown was Ferguson.
Okay, great. So what if those cops were coming out and saying that, we did a great job and all that stuff? At the very least,
I saved people's lives. I'm a hero.
Yeah. At the very least,
weird.
When you kill someone like that, usually you have to go through some kind of counseling and stuff like that. So if he did do that and he's coming out of it saying this stuff, he's a fucking sociopath who gets a thrill out of killing. And I believe that because
power and violence.
Yeah, it was quite clear that there was no immediate threat when that was happening. And again, we can talk all day about whether or not what happened that day was just and should have happened. But was anyone from the government killed? We had a whole stream on this in February, man.
No, you had the Capitol Police, but no member of Congress, none of their staff were killed. Only Ashley Babbitt.
Mm-hmm.
Who was unarmed. To go so far as to say you saved people's lives, it'd be so out of all the people that were in that Capitol building, only Ashley Babbitt was going to go on a murderous rampage, or was able to go on a murderous rampage. Only her, based on no evidence, by the way. She didn't leave a manifesto or anything like that saying that I'm going to go kill me some feds or anything like that. Nothing of the sort. Feds.
No,
anyway.
Mike, I don't know if you're talking about what some of the bigger channels do. And they have a window showing the chat, but when they do that, they're usually using
OBS
or something. And yeah, I found that it kind of slows my computer down a lot and it creates lag, and it's not like I get a lot of comments anyway, but very few comments don't show up. I know that some of mine haven't on some other streams every now and then, but
right.
Yeah.
So to have a chat overlay, basically you would essentially we'd have to either do some other form of communication, or he'd have to screen capture StreamYards, which means he'd be downloading from StreamYards the stream, so I could be on it, and then he could capture that. And then while he's doing that download, then he would also be uploading to StreamYard so then I
Yeah.
could see his face. And then also he'd be uploading to YouTube because he would have to go through OBS to do the overlay with the chat on it and then be uploaded directly from OBS to YouTube. That requires probably some better upload bandwidth than Tim has, and probably even myself. You know, I definitely have faster, but yeah, that's a lot of work for, I don't know if that's worth the payoff.
Yeah.
Because you'd have to shrink the screen too. Like,
Yeah.
it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter for me because I'm just an avatar. But for anybody that's on camera, that would be a pain in the ass. I mean, I guess I could do it as a guest and bring in a second client, but yeah.
Yeah, maybe when we get 1,000 people in the chat.
Yeah.
Clay Thomason for $6 on Streamlabs. Thanks, Clay. I'm rewatching B5 season 4, and it's eerie how much it relates to what's happening today. And what's funny is that would be totally lost on the creator. Totally lost. Who has TDS and he had BDS and everything else. And I'll say it again. That's really one of the only good things he ever created, and it was so good. It's almost like he used up all of his good ideas and all of his skill on that, and everything else has been mediocre to complete destruction, just like the Spider-Man stuff that we talked about on Casual Rage. But yeah, I want to do something, but I want to do so many things. But I want to do like a episode by episode breakdown. And then once you get into that season, man, there's so many comparisons to make. But I agree with you. Thanks for the $6. So here's where I want to go with this Birdman thing. So one person dead, you can count 5 if you want to include the ones that died of the overdose and the natural causes and stuff. So we have 13 Marines dead alone, and it maybe some civilians as well. And this attack on
civilians,
and it's being talked about, but you're not seeing the outrage. You're not seeing therapy sessions and all this stuff
on the floor of Congress.
Over completely unnecessary deaths that were caused by tactical incompetence. And that kind of tells you where the mainstream media is on everything. Not just the media, but members of Congress and everyone else. Yeah, people are paying their respects and all that type of stuff, but I guarantee this will be forgotten in a few months. They're still talking about 1-6. Trey set it up here somewhere else. He's so fucking sick and tired of hearing about it. It's going to be talked about forever. You go to the Wikipedia page, and if you read that 20 years from now, you're going to actually think it was a really terrible and bad thing,
Yeah, like Ashley Babbitt was like they shot her because she got in there and got like the nuclear football and was running and was about to escape with it, and they shot her.
I like that.
And instead of she was just simply trying to climb through a broken window. They make it sound to be like look, at no point was there any possibility that what happened on January 6th would result in an actual change of power.
Right.
What are you giggling at?
Oh, it's something Blake did. I'll show it in a minute here.
Yeah, there's no way that and the reason we know is because it didn't happen. Like they continued the vote that day. And that was just the certification of the Electoral College. That they continued that like a couple hours later, and it was fine. Like that's. I'm sorry, and also notice that they haven't charged anybody with sedition. Like, what the fuck is this? Oh, Coco,
the Birdman. Yeah. Think he'd gotten rid of the bird by then.
Yeah, probably died.
Yeah, you're exactly right. If this were so bad, then where are the charges
Right.
and stuff?
And we just had the FBI kind
Why
of come
weren't
out
more people
recently.
killed on either side that day?
Right. And then the FBI recently just came out and be like, yeah, we've got nothing as far as like it being an organized event.
Mm-hmm.
Like they concluded their investigation. Like, yeah, there's no evidence that this was like a coordinated, planned event. Outside of the fact that the protest or the assembly itself was planned, of course. But well, of course, if you haven't seen our stream where we break down that fucking
Therapy
session, that therapy session that they had on the floor. Now, granted, it was like probably like 2:00 in the morning or whatever when they were on. They had the floor of the house, but yeah, it had Rashid Tlaib, AOC, and a couple other, and a few like really effeminate cuck dudes. Like they were crying and like that they were threatened, and I believe to this day AOC thinks that they came to rape her. She said that. I mean,
yeah.
I don't think like if you think conservatives out there like have any like no, they're not interested in you, babe.
Here's the thing, one man show, let's not say murder, let's say was death the intent. I would say 100% yes, because that's the way that they're trained to shoot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, killing, not murder, technically. Some people would call it murder, but death was definitely the intent whenever they pull their weapon and fire. So
yeah, and like the crime of murder requires intent. There's always the intent element.
Right. So that's just one comparison I wanted to make. The fact that they're going to be talking about 1-6 forever, and technically, one death, but you got these deaths in Afghanistan, and quite honestly, the toll's probably going to go up. And earlier on in the stream, what about all the people that were in these outlying towns that might have been snatched up by now? What's happening to them? None of that's being talked about because the mainstream media, and we don't throw labels a lot around on this channel, but quite honestly, like leftists, it shows you where their priorities lie. So that's all I'm going to say.
Well, and I think like when it comes to just talking about death in particular and numbers, and of course, what happened to the Marines is tragic and that is preventable, likely to be preventable. And the response that like a lot of people on the other side would be like, well, if we, because I mean, here's the thought line, right? If we stay, then that'll violate our terms of the ceasefire agreement, and then we'll have to commit more troops into Afghanistan to stabilize it. And it's like, no. Well, I guess now if you go back on it, yes, but like, had you gone back on it like a couple months ago, then you could have still supported the Afghan army and they wouldn't have folded. So like,
yeah.
But ultimately, like, could if we decided to stay, and let's say in June he came out and said, you know what, fuck this deal, we're staying, and it resulted in the Taliban attacking, and let's say 28 Marines died. It doesn't mean double the amount, so it was the wrong decision. Like no.
Yeah.
You don't want to be callous about like numbers of people dying, but like that, like when you sign up and you run to be the commander in chief of the United States military and president of the United States, you cannot make decisions based on just one life or just 14 or just 100. Like, you're going to have to make some tough calls. The point, the real thing about the 14 that died yesterday is that it was preventable and unnecessary. But when kids sign up to go into the military, they're pretty aware of the risks.
Yeah.
And you can't be a commander who's unwilling to commit.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you're going to have to give the order that's going to get some kid killed. And if you can't live with that, then you shouldn't be in the position you're in.
No.
You're gonna have to make a decision and go like, and you're gonna have to weigh numbers. Is it worth 1,000 more lives? You're gonna have to decide. That's your job. That's what you did. That's your job.
Yeah, and again, Samuel,
you just look at COVID. 600 and some thousand. I mean, numbers tick up very quickly and very easily. It doesn't mean that lives are you should casually dismiss people dying, but the why matters.
Yeah, and again, Samuel, I don't like to throw labels around, but I've said this before to some friends, like white liberals historically are probably the worst people in the world. Like if you just kind of look at if you look at their sphere of responsibility for bad things happening, worst people in the world.
Yeah, but I guess if you want to if you recall somebody like Stalin a liberal,
Mm-hmm.
he was white,
and all the people who prop him up, it wasn't just him.
He killed a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
He killed a lot, starved a lot of people.
Yeah, and they exported that horrible philosophy, that horrible system to many places around the world. So,
yeah.
There
you go, Lyndon Johnson.
We're gonna shift wavelengths here and talk about something for a little bit, and it's Greg kind of touched on it. It's what's going to happen next with COVID-19. Here's the thing: like we thought that we were getting away from a lot of the lockdown stuff, and then this Delta variant hit, and then here we go again. Masks are back, and social distancing and lockdowns and all that. There were some summer events close to where I live, that huge ones that were canceled, and now it's like polarization time. The people who don't care, they don't care. They want to go to the event. They want to enjoy life against the vax cultists. The people that we need to cancel it. No, we don't need to cancel it. We need to shift the location somewhere out in the country and let all those people go and let them give it to each other. You see comments like that. The polarization here is huge.
And then if they're not vaxxed, and they go to the ER, they should be just thrown out of the hospital.
Oh, I saw those exact comments. It's on a little Facebook page with local news and stuff.
Oh, it's all over Twitter too.
So here's the thing. It's polarizing. It's terrible right now. And here's what it boils down to. And it kind of goes back. I got to pull this up. I should have already had it up, but I don't. Here it is right here. It goes back to the new thumbnail that I need to update for the background here with this Latin phrase. And it's not a traditional Latin phrase. It's one that I created based on an old rant from Greg that I can't remember if it was on a live stream or if it was backstage, but it's si vos conantur privare mihi libertas mea tu mihi inimicum, which means if you try to take my liberty or my freedom, you are my enemy. And that's what it comes down to. It's some people have this need, right, for freedom of choice, this individuality, and another group of people are the exact opposite. They want you to do something for, and watch out for these words. Once you see these, run the other way. The greater good.
Yeah.
The greater good. When you see that, immediately be suspicious of that person, because those words are used to justify all manner of
atrocities,
of the scaling back of personal liberties. And once you lose them, they never come back without blood. Have we ever given up power to a government anytime in history and gotten it back? No.
No. Well, not without eliminating that form of government. The automatic response, if you're not going to run away, is for the greater good, is always with a question: who determines the greater good?
Exactly. We know who it is. It's those in power. It's the state.
They'll say the people, and be like, without any limitations. So if 50 plus 1% of the out of 100 people, if 51 say that Timon shouldn't get to talk in the chat anymore, that's that the people have determined it's for the greater good of the chat that Timon gets permanently muted. We'd never do that to you, Timon. I just saw a name in the chat.
Might.
Well, I wouldn't. But
if he lets his credit card get canceled again, then well, not because I want the money, but just because anyone who does
or like you can let's take it.
They're mutable.
Let's take it to a different extreme. Like if 50 plus 1 think that if you didn't get the vax, you should be denied any medical care.
Yeah. Did you hear about
good, right?
Did you hear about those doctors?
Which ones?
Miami. Yeah, which ones? Miami?
Oh, yeah, the ones that went and did a press conference. Yeah.
They walked out. Yeah.
They didn't even really walk out. They went and did a press conference lecturing people, and they went back to work.
Well, point is,
they virtue signaled.
I've seen threats of that happening all over the country, and that leads you to ask,
well, why should I care? They're willing to fire anybody who doesn't get a vaccine. If you work at the hospital, you get fired if you don't get vaccinated.
Hippocratic Oath, number 2.
Yeah.
There's the Hippocratic. Number 2, you got to think about, they're walking out for that, right? But not extreme obesity, smoking. Have they refused to treat people who smoke, who use heroin? All that shit, gangbangers that shoot each other, have they refused? Because how many die from that? How many? What about reckless drivers? We talked months ago about the line between number of auto accident deaths and COVID deaths.
What they'll say is like, well, those are different because those aren't overwhelming the hospitals.
Oh, I hate that term.
The whole thing is the overwhelming the hospitals. Like first and foremost, like. To the self-designated quote unquote heroes and first line people out there.
Front line.
Sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, fuck off.
I agree.
Like, honestly, I'm sorry you had to do your job. I'm sorry if your job became somewhat difficult. I'm sorry that normally they have 12 people doing the job of 8, and now you only have 10 people, or now you have 12 people doing the job of 12. And I'm sorry that is making you stressed out. I'm sincerely, my heart goes out to you that you have to do the job that you get fucking paid to do, and that you had a bad day and it's stressful. Because you're the only ones in the history of mankind that have had to experience that kind of stress at their fucking job. You're the firsts. And I'm very grateful that you sons of bitches out there have taken the time out of your overstressed busy days to make car videos and TikTok videos and do press conferences saying how busy you are when then I can go and look online or see anecdotal evidence of people taking pictures of empty fucking emergency rooms.
Mm-hmm.
And if the hospitals fill up, then it's a matter of allocating resources. As in, like, if we decided that we weren't going to do this asinine, idiotic strategy of lockdowns, masks, vaccines, or death. Like, you choose from you got to get one of the, you have to do all the three, or you deserve to die. Or that's the only, we're not going to treat the disease. We're not going to expand our capacity to take care of more people. We're not going to set up any triage areas or anything like that. Like, haven't heard anything about a lack of ventilators since March of last year. Right?
Yeah.
I know that the hospitals, they may be getting filled in their ICU beds. Maybe they are, or the emergency rooms. But then expand. And you know what? Here's what you do. Like, so when California, because California is grossly incompetent in almost everything they do, has wildfires. Is it only California people that are fighting the wildfires? No. They bring in people from all over the fucking country and the world and pay them money to come do that dangerous job to get the fires under control. And they do it all the time. So here's what you do. Okay, Louisiana's got an issue. Maybe it's because they didn't vax enough. Maybe not. But regardless, they have an issue in their hospitals.
Right.
And they need additional help. So here's what you do. You take the nurse from Maine. You pay her a bunch of extra money. You fly her ass down to Louisiana to help.
Yes. And guess what? I know some people personally last year in 2020 that went to the state of New York because they had that skill. And guess what? There was a bigger demand in New York for nursing.
Well, and it's not hitting all states equally. And it has, and like, it doesn't really have anything to do with policy regarding masking, just so you people know. Like, I know that that's dangerous area to tread on and everything, but like, you look and it's like, if you look at where the bumps and spikes occurred last year based on weather and seasonality, the same thing is happening this year. The Sunbelt states got hit in August last year. They're getting hit in August this year. You know what's going to happen though come December when all the other states get hit? They're going to get hit too, but not nearly as sharply and not nearly as much, because they already went through a wave in August. But yes, you reallocate the resources. And like, okay, I'm not a nurse.
Well, hold on 1 second. I don't want to hold that thought, but think about it this way, like sending the people to New York that I know, and then you were proposing the same idea. That's a market-driven decision, right? Because you're paying someone what they want to travel away from their family to go do a job, right? That's what their time and their labor is worth in that situation. Like, I'm going to travel 10 states away, so that I can do my job. Maybe I'm getting paid twice what I would here, right? That's a market-driven decision, people.
Yeah, plus travel and lodging. Yeah, you could.
Yeah.
They do it in all manners of industry. Do you think all the people that are drilling for oil in North Dakota grew up there?
Hold on a minute. Do you think a lot of the people that are in manufacturing jobs are from the United States?
Yeah, there you go. Like, and as far as like nursing goes, like, look, sister's a registered nurse.
Is that funny?
She went through the schooling and everything like that. So like, it's not that I don't have any respect for the profession.
Right.
But here's the thing. Like, what are they actually doing with a COVID patient that's requiring so much hands-on attention? Like, once you get them in their beds and on their ventilators and stuff, like is it like can we do something in an emergency situation with, I don't know, something like the National Guard? Can we bring in people to these hospitals to assist that maybe aren't completely medical certified to do it, but like train them how to do some of the other stuff to lighten the load? Like, do you need to be a registered nurse to help a dude, leave his bed and go take a piss? Probably not. Like, there are solutions out there to the whole, flatten the curve and the hospitals are being overwhelmed panic thing. And it's just, it requires somebody who's got a good head on their shoulders and a sense of control and leadership and the ability to make calls and give direction. We have a shortage of we have a shortage of nurses. Okay, well, where aren't they getting hit? Oh, they're not getting hit. Oh, they're not getting hit in Maine. Well, let's bribe a bunch of people. Let's bribe a bunch of nurses from Maine to come down here to Louisiana to work for a month, pay them a shit ton of extra money, and because, like, look, you can't say money's an object, right? The amount of money the federal government has like pissed out since this thing has started, like
just on the vaccines,
just on the vaccines alone. But like, yeah, Melissa, the CNAs, like, but CNAs is, I don't want to call it unskilled because it's not unskilled, but it's something that a lot of people, it doesn't take a long time to get trained to do that job. But then hire more and pay them a ton of money. Give them $50 an hour. If they agree to come to Louisiana, learn how to do it and help out.
That's the wage. Yeah.
And there you go. You tell me like they couldn't find anybody willing to do that? Bullshit. $50 an hour?
Well,
that's how you make some of these changes. Not to mention the fact that you can, they have the hospital ships that they deployed, one outside of New York that they never really ended up using. And then they have
I remember that
as well that they never really ended up using. Then you could like, let's take over like all these convention centers, right? Fucking convert them into a triage hospitals.
Yeah. But to address what one man show here is saying, well, there is another example. If this is true, I don't know if it is or not, and I'm not calling you a liar. But if it is true, that's another example of the government getting in the way of good sense, market-driven solutions.
If they're overwhelmed and it's an emergency, then waive the licensing restriction.
But they won't, because why?
You can executive order people to close their business, but you can't waive that little thing. Like, exactly. I'm sorry, I don't buy it. I know, like, at some point in my life, I'm going to end up in a hospital. I'm going to get a nurse and be like, "Yeah, I saw your stream."
Yeah, at least they don't know.
And
what
guess
you look
what?
Like.
It's time to adjust your catheter.
Well, speaking of that, like, I would like to sign up to be a CNA, as long as I can do this, assist peeing with attractive women only. I would sign up for that.
Yeah, but like if you look at the BMI of your hospitalized COVID patients, it's not going to be. It's not going to be something. And I could say that because I'm a fat ass myself, but I also. But, well, I mean, like the stats are out there. Obesity is like the number one comorbidity, right? Like it's kind of the thing. Overwhelmingly, it doesn't mean that if you're not obese, you're like immune from the virus, because that's stupid. Of course you're not. But like, instead of only doing this, the Australian thing is just hide behind lockdown strategies and masking and social distancing strategies. Let's start as a country saying, look, this thing is here for the long haul. And we need to start coming up with solutions to mitigate and live with it rather than hide from our lives forever. Because there's always going to be the next variant or the next threat of a variant. Or it'll be booster shots forever and all these other things. So I thought we were going to get booster shots for free forever, because that's going to get pretty damn expensive. Right? Let's start thinking about, like, let's come up with treatments that are cost effective and just effective in general. Instead of this, nope, if it's not masks and it's not lockdowns, we're not doing it. La 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 la.
And not vaccines, yeah.
Right, and not vaccines. But
yeah, they seem to be against treatments.
Yeah. If you look in the history of this thing, like, and I used to think it was just the fact that Trump was suggesting it, so they had hissy fits, but I'm not speaking to the efficacy of any particular drug or treatment out there. I am not the guy I'm not a doctor. I never want to be a doctor, because I would be, unless it's like Kevorkian. That'd be my kind of game. But the open hostility that you see on Twitter, social media, to any suggestion that treatment should be, that there is a treatment, or there's a potential for a treatment, or that should be the strategy, is met. It's openly hostile. They're like, no, again, lockdowns, vaccines, masks, or you die. That's the only thing that they're willing to accept.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just bizarre, because to me, if I care about people so damn much, and I look at how many people are dying, you see that quote a lot too. People are dying.
Right.
People are dying. You see, if you really care about that stuff, then you would think that when somebody suggests to be like, hey, check out this drug XYZ, it already exists. We already know what the side effects of this drug XYZ is, because we've been using it for something else. So we know that it has low or insignificant side effects. And this might be useful in treating 20%. Again, I'm not referring to any specific drug, but let's just say XYZ drug comes out, or it already exists. And I say, hey, I'm doing a study, and obviously more studies need to be done, but we might want to look into this, because I've seen that it helps 20% of hospitalized patients recover quickly and not go into the ICUs. And their response is hatred, vitriol, and like stomping their feet, instead of going, wow, 20%? That sounds like great news. If we imagine if we could reduce the amount of people in ICU beds by 20%. But no, they're not happy with
part of the polarization.
They don't want that. They don't want the people in the ICU to get better.
Mm-mm.
And if they say they do, they're fucking lying to you. They're using that as an excuse, because pay attention to the other side of Twitter, the ones that are openly saying it. We shouldn't treat them. They deserve what they got. All those kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They don't want them treated. They just want to act morally superior, and they want you to die.
Yeah.
They're the ones that actually literally don't care if you die, because any suggestion that we could treat this thing, and they're hostile towards it.
And they want you locked down, but not themselves. Think about the Obama party, right?
Oh, fuck, yeah.
Because they don't want you to give it to them, right? Even though they've been jabbed, they don't want you around them. They want you locked down, but they want to be able to be the ones to go out. And again, it comes back to two groups. And the way that I define anything is, for me, if it's according to my set of ethics, does it represent individuality? If yes, I like it. If not, I do not like it. Mm-hmm. Personal freedom and individuality. And this right here, it gives these people, the ones you're talking about, Greg, that really don't want the people they don't like out of the ICU. It mm-hmm. boils down to, these are people that are not for the greater good. Thus, I don't want them around. That's what it boils down to. It's yin and yang. People who It's not chaos versus order like the Tao, but it's individuality and collectivism against each other. That's what is defining this polarization. And a lot of it may be subconscious. Like we're consciously right here thinking that I'm against it. I'm against lockdowns. I'm for policies that will preserve freedom, right? At any cost. But these people aren't even considering that. It's not even a consideration.
No.
They just want to exert the control. And then maybe, oh, we care about the lives. No, you care about certain lives, right? You want your political opponents, your philosophical opponents in the ICU and then in the grave. And we're coming out and saying.
Well, and you want to defeat them politically.
Yes. And even if you survive, it's like, ha ha, you hate to see it. You see that stupid meme out there a lot. Like someone who is against the jab or against lockdowns, they come out and say, hey, I've contracted it. And, oh, you hate to see it. Ha ha, you got it. It's like, okay, no one ever said I wasn't going to get it,
I've never believed that 0 cases was ever going to be possible.
We had a bubonic plague case in Nevada a few years ago.
Right. Well, and this isn't even like a bacteria. Like it's a respiratory virus. And, and I just want to give a special shout out to our good buddy in Hollywood, California. Speaking of people, the elites who don't have to follow the restrictions, the ones that were still flying in planes, going places, they pretended like they were locking down in their mansions. But like, really, do you believe that they took care of their own pools and they cleaned their own house? Do you really believe that? Arnold, buddy, screw your donkey, because I'm pretty sure your donkey hasn't gotten vaccinated. And as a mammal with lungs, it's a reservoir. So until you shoot your donkey dead, screw you.
See ya, Arnold.
So we can never, vaccines will never eliminate this thing, because if it exists in animals, we can't vaccinate, we can't go hunt up and round up all the animals on Earth and give them the jab. And then 7 days later, try and find them all again and jab them again.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's just.
And then a third time for your boosters.
Yeah, a third time for the boosters, or once every 8 weeks or 5 weeks or whatever the fuck they're saying now. But like, look, the strategy from the get go of zero COVID, or and was like, I get it, but it was a mistake. To make that like the sole goal, and that's where we're stuck with. You have countries like Australia who are still stuck in March of 2020, and next year they're going to be stuck in March of 2020.
Yeah,
because they put all their eggs in this one little basket here, and if it doesn't work, like, what do they got? As a world, as a country, we just need to start going, no, we're not going to end our lives in fear and lock down and hunker down and not enjoy the limited time on this earth that we have.
Yeah.
And two, we got to start coming up with ways to live with it. That's reasonable and not masks and lockdowns.
I'll tell you backstage the specifics of some of these events that have been canceled, but there are threats that people from out of town are coming anyway, and I hope it happens, because I think it needs to come to a head. I think it needs to come to a head, and in every state, in every city, and not just the United States, in every country. It needs to come to a head, and people need to show that they're not going to put up with it. But guess what? It's easier to take your government check, stay in your pajamas all day, and watch your Netflix. And that's what people are content to do, because they've been conditioned not to have any individuality, not to have any kind of any
Dude,
kind
you don't
of
even have to think about it, bro.
aspirations to accomplish anything on their own. It's like, hey, I'm only on this earth for so many years. What do I need work when the government's gonna just give me my whatever they're getting now? I can't even think of what it is. $800. Why would I?
Depends on your state, but yeah, it's whatever your state was, and then plus 300 per week.
I wouldn't know because I don't get it, and I never would get it.
Right,
So.
I don't either. But shit, I forgot what I was gonna say. Oh damn, it was a good one too.
Boobs.
Yeah, boobs.
I don't know, Blake. Let me look here. You know who I'm talking about, Greg? That girl that always has like booby pictures on Twitter, and she's like an Arnold mega fan.
Oh yeah, I know who you're talking about. I don't remember.
I wonder what she said about it, because she was like a huge simp for Arnie.
Yeah. Oh, it's about the like. Why do people like so willing to give up their freedoms and their individualities? Because, look, making decisions in life is work. Making decisions for your own life means that you are responsible for your own life. You can't blame some nebulous group over here for what happens to you because it's your. I mean, they still try, but because nothing ever that is bad. Nothing bad's ever happened to them that isn't somebody else's fault, not their own. But if you believe in individualism, that means that you have a responsibility for yourself, and with that responsibility comes work, and you got to make decisions, and to be accountable for those decisions. And you can't blame somebody else. You can't blame Congress. You can't blame the president. You can't blame the other party. Can't blame the orange man. It's on you. And there's a lot of people that would much rather just limp through life being told what to do because it's easy. Not me. That's not me. I like. That's not living to me. I don't want to be a drone. I don't want to be told what to do.
Yeah, and I've read a lot from Jordan B. Peterson, and one of the things he talks about is meaning and being. And you don't have that unless that's the thing. Like, people always say that, oh, I can't wait until I get to the end, of whatever it is, whether it's your career or whatever you're in, your school. And that what happens when you get there, though? It's not like I'm done. You want to move on to the next thing. Like, on YouTube, I'll be happy when I get to 2,000 subscribers. I'm done after that. But once you get there, you want more, right?
Right.
Because we as humans need to be aiming towards something. We need to be, we need to have goals to have meaning. And if you don't have meaning, then life is pointless. It's just like the multiverse, right?
Right.
It's like, if nothing means anything, then what's the point?
Well, right.
If nothing counts, what's the point?
Yeah, if you go through your whole life just doing what everybody tells you to do, because that's safe and that's easy, then at the end of it, what can you say you accomplished?
Yeah.
When you're on your deathbed, whatever age, or it's your time to go, you're going to say, well, at least I did what? Existed?
Mm-hmm.
That's it? Like at least live the way you want to live. Like, hey, you want to rough it out there in a cabin in fucking Wyoming, or bumfuck Alaska? Go for it. Do it. Enjoy it. It's your choice. Go live your life.
I want
to live my life. I don't want to be told what to do.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I'll give my thoughts on that. But I found what the Vanessinator said about 2 weeks ago. Guys, I get that not everyone is happy with what Arnold said. To be honest, I'm not. But replying to all my tweets with his statements is not going to get me to stop liking him or his movies. Also, Insulting me for not agreeing with you is not really the best way to start a civil conversation. This is why I only tweet about 4 things. God forbid I express myself for 1 second on here. LOL. She's still simping over the last 2 weeks too. That's hilarious. Anyway,
I don't know how you could be like for somebody that says literally "screw your freedom."
well, that's a good segue right into this. You know, someone like that, someone a member of the elite, saying something like that because you know he's not going to say screw his own freedom. Like you said, he'll have his pool boy, he'll have his maid. He'll have.
He does these dumb videos, and he's got the alligator and the fucking donkey and shit, and in his mansion, and all this other stuff. Like, yeah,
freedom for me, but not for thee.
And everybody, and like, I guarantee anybody who wants to go, like any of his friends that want to go see him, they can see him. He's not like, no, but social distance. You can't come to my house. Bullshit. Bullshit. You're gonna say, "Oh, you're having a meeting for your a movie project," and that's you'll use some dumbass excuse like that. Because I don't believe for a second that he locked down or restricted himself in any way.
It's just like the Obama animal farm, you know.
Yeah.
Some animals are more equal than others, and the Hollywood elite, the political class, they think they can do what they want because they're more equal than you are.
Yeah. And you've seen it all throughout this whole pandemic. Pelosi getting her hair done. The Lori Lightfoot in Chicago getting her hair done. No mask or anything like that.
How many press conferences have ended and they're like this as soon as they think the cameras are
and they've been busted so many times, including people like AOC, like Sweetie,
Fauci.
Those big honking donkey teeth that you have, like they're very pearly white, and people are going to notice when you take your mask off. But the mayors of various cities who are like, cancel Thanksgiving, and then they hop on a flight to go see their family, right?
Yeah,
we saw that over Thanksgiving and Christmas last year. Dozens and dozens and dozens of high profile people busted, not taking their own advice, and don't believe for a second that any of them actually did. They have the luxury of being able to not do that, and not only that, they have the audacity to believe that they shouldn't have to.
Yep,
they're more important.
They're importanter. Yep.
Yeah, it's like that bitch from Ferguson that about her security, the congressman. She's doing important work, so it justifies her spending like $80,000 of campaign money on private security. Because she's important.
Yeah. The point here, guys, is that once we let liberty and freedom go, you can't get it back without bloodshed. But we're letting it go. I mean, at will. And when I say we, I don't mean us. I mean the people out there we referred to earlier, the ones that like to do the pajamas and Netflix and just give me my government check. They don't care because they figure they won't be here in 30, 40 years, right? But we have a tradition, and we have respect, and we have honor, and we have the desire for posterity, and we want future generations to enjoy the prosperity and the freedom that we have over our lives. At least I have, where I've lived. And it's just sad that maybe by the end of this generation, we'll have forgotten that, because kids now, the way they're being taught in schools is about that greater good and stuff. And hey, there's nothing wrong with having a desire to come together and unite as a country or whatever. That's a great and wonderful thing. But when you mandate that someone participate in a movement for the greater good, or else, whatever that else may be, that's that's when you get into tyranny.
Oh, let's
and
get
we're
nerdy.
letting, yeah.
Let's get nerdy. Here's an example. So, Star Trek 2, Wrath of Khan, right? Needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one, right? Spock says that over and on. It's a Vulcan philosophy. But imagine in that movie that Spock, Kirk goes on the comm with Scotty. He's like, Scotty, I need warp power in so many minutes or we're all dead. I forget the time period. Then Spock kind of looks up and then he takes off and he goes down. He goes down to engineering because he's got an idea. He's going to fix the warp and he's going to sacrifice his life. But no, it's not the needs of him. It's not him that's outweighed. He gets down there and he's like, hey, Scotty, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one. And then he grabs Scotty and then throws him in there.
Yeah.
And tells them to fix it. That's your elites. That's what they believe. It's like, because they're not the ones that are going to sacrifice. And the thing is, government is a long way to say force. Everything government does is by force. All their authority is derived from force. And it doesn't have to be they punch you into submission. They can simply drag you off to jail, or they can drag you to an internment camp or a quarantine center. But that's force. They're still dragging you.
Yeah.
They're still grabbing you and forcing you to go somewhere. So everything the government does is force. So the idea of the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one, when you apply that to government action, that's the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one by force. And it's quite a different thing than somebody doing something self-sacrificing for the good of many, or donating to a charity privately, or doing things themselves because they have their own self-interest. They want to feel good about what they're doing. I mean, there's even charity is an act of self-interest to some degree. This idea that when you make the government a part of it, mandate vaccines, or you mandate masks, or you do lockdowns, or whatever it is, and it's by force is the problem. And I think like one of the things is like, if they really wanted to actually, if you go back to January of this year, and if they really wanted to honestly, like if vaccines were the solution to this whole thing, I don't know if there's a way that they could have pushed them that would have gotten more hesitancy than they got.
Yeah.
Because it was almost instantaneously, like once the old people got their shots, right? And the younger people, under the 65 or whatever, became eligible to get theirs. It was instantly like, you're a murderer if you don't get it. You're a Trumper if you don't get it.
Yeah, before they.
I read about that. Like I mentioned it before on other shows. They're building a detention center that's not even going to be open. I'm sorry, a quarantine hotel or quarantine center in Australia. That's not even going to be open till the middle of next year. What's that tell you? What does that tell you that the leadership in your country, in Australia, thinks that's going to be going on in June of next year?
Yeah, it's almost
the pandemic.
Ominous.
Like, why would you need a detention center a year from now? Or I'm sorry, not a detention, a quarantine center a year from now. Because your policies don't work. They're not sustainable over the long haul. They're not. Like, doing it in the early stages when we didn't know the lethality of it and everything, like, you can understand it to some degree when it actually was just 15 days. Now we're on like 500 and some. Yeah. But when it actually was just 15 days, like, you could understand it. Like, hey, we don't know what we're dealing with, so let's err on the side of caution. But like, we started to get an idea very early. or relatively quickly, like what we were actually dealing with as far as lethality and at-risk groups. Didn't matter. They pursued that policy, the same policy anyway, as if it were something terrible. And I'm going to get off my high horse just a second. One thing I'm so fucking sick and tired of is when they're comparing these things to like the MMR vaccines, right? Measles, mumps, rubella, or the polio vaccines.
Oh gosh, I've had to correct people at work on that.
It's like, okay, go look up polio. Look at the lethality of polio. Look up mumps, measles, rubella,
Smallpox.
a little, smallpox. Go look up how lethal those viruses were and tell me that they're the same thing. And not only like with polio, it wasn't like if you survived it, like you were crippled.
Uh-huh.
There's a reason why FDR was in a wheelchair. It's not because of a diving accident. It's because he had polio.
Did they claim it was a diving accident?
No,
Oh, okay. I was going to say I never.
Just saying, like people assume that they had broken their neck. You know that kind of mean thing that.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I've had to correct people at work on that. There's this douchebag that is in a completely different apartment.
We're talking orders of magnitude like 30 times.
Yeah, he sits about 10 feet away, and he's always making these passive-aggressive comments, whether he's on the phone or he's talking to people that work for him. And the latest one was like, oh, all those people that, were waiting for, I'm holding out until the FDA approves. Well, they've approved. And I'm like, for me, it's like that means nothing. And in fact, it may mean less when the FDA approves a vaccine, because here's the thing. When a drug goes wrong, right, when it has like a recall and all that, and Pfizer or whoever it is gets sued, does the FDA take any responsibility?
No.
What about when a food company has a recall? Does the FDA or USDA take any responsibility when they regulate with inspectors on site? Huh?
USDA is part of the FDA, so yeah.
Well, I mean, but it's specific. Do they? Because it depends. It depends. If it's meat, then USDA inspects those. But if it's non-meat, then FDA just sends its own inspectors. So do they take any responsibility for whatever it is, whether it's metal that got into the food or sometimes? No, they don't. So FDA means very little to me at all. So a lot of my friends that were saying that, I'm like, I wouldn't say that, because they're going to eventually. They're going to. You think they're actually going to say, well, no, if they found something concerning? Hell no, they're not. So to me, their endorsement, their approval means absolutely fucking nothing. And by the way, for your analogy earlier,
I don't know what to say. Well, you could say thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Awesome. Love that movie. Yeah, okay. I don't care how many experts they have, how many people with titles, doctors, and degrees and certifications. The FDA is a bureaucracy of the government, and with a lot of political appointees running it. You cannot tell me with a straight face that there was no political motivation to the quote-unquote approval of this vaccination.
Yeah.
That vaccination. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't get it. I just don't think that their seal of approval is worthy of anything. I think that the better data is the number of people who have gotten it and how very, 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 very few people have had reactions to it. If you want to play the numbers game, that's just the plain simple numbers game. Whether you want to take the vaccine or not, that's up to you. Talk to your doctor. But if you look at just the sheer numbers, overwhelming odds are it ain't going to hurt you. Now, you could argue the effectiveness of it. We won't have that data either, but it doesn't matter. Like the fact that the FDA approved it, like, did anybody think that they weren't? Like, what would happen if they didn't?
Right.
Like, can I refund my shot? Like, how do I get it out of me then? like, how do you undo it?
You get the Infinity Gauntlet. It's like you snap.
Like, you're giving this thing in like hundreds of millions of doses. Like, it don't matter at this point whether or not it's approved. It's out there. Mm-hmm. Like, you can't unvaccinate. Mm-hmm. So, like, you're kind of like, it doesn't matter. No. Yeah. And I don't know many people that were realistically like using the whole approved the FDA approval thing as like an actual personal hurdle.
Really?
Getting the vaccine themselves. Because here's the thing.
Many people told me that, and I'm like, that's.
I think a lot of people said it. I think a lot of people don't really mean it, because I think they're still hesitant, because they're still looking at it and they're going, but wait a minute, how is it possible that this thing could get approved when you don't have the data for any long-term? Like, you have no long-term data. Like, the reason these things take a while is because you kind of have to wait a while before you see if there's like, so you can accumulate that data to monitor, side effects and efficacy after X amount of years. I guess if the approval process has changed and they've managed to speed it up, then I'm looking forward to all the wonderful drugs that are going to get approved very quickly now, because they're going to be able to bypass. Oh wait, this one's a special case.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So I don't think a lot of the people, like, the fact that the FDA stamped it on as far as I know, just the one so far, right?
Moderna, right?
Just Pfizer.
Pfizer, my bad. Yeah.
So, like, the other two in the United States, the other two major players you got Moderna and then the Johnson & Johnson, right? As far as I know, those other two have not been approved. Mm-hmm. I don't know why. They were approved for emergency authorization use pretty close together. But I who knows? Maybe Pfizer kicked in a couple extra bucks. Yeah, I like that. Its approval really. If I'll just put it this way, like, there's the people that say that they were waiting for the approval, they aren't going to accept the approval anyway. It was just a good excuse not to, I think.
Yeah.
Valid. Because the long-term studies can't be done yet, because it's been like, you can't speed up the clock. You can't hop in your DeLorean and go into the future and be like, oh yeah, cool, that worked out, and then travel back in your time machine and be like, I approve it. That would be a neat trick. But that's just not feasible. So, like, for those people, I don't think that was going to move the needle anyway. It was a good reason to not mandate it. And I would suggest then, like, okay, my counter argument would be like, okay, if it's approved, then the waiver for no suing for side effects, that's gone too, right? Or is that still in place?
Yeah.
Right? Because if it's approved and safe, then why is this waiver in here anymore? Like, I get the waiver when it was under emergency use authorization, right? But if it's approved and I get it now and I get a side effect, or it's determined later that there's a whole bunch of side effects that took a longer time to manifest, right. I want to be I want to be a part of a mesothelioma lawsuit thing. I want to see a guy on TV and be like, did you take this drug back in 1995? If you have, you may be entitled to compensation. Call 1-888 Shyster. Right? Yeah, an 82 DeLorean would be.
I wish I just had one.
Yeah.
But yeah,
and there's a lot of places in the country that in the world that they don't even access to the other ones. They're either getting AstraZeneca or like Simone, or like what Blake said, Moderna.
Yeah, that's why FDA, USDA, whatever it is, like government, and I'm not just talking about drugs, anything, like that's why government approval regulation means nothing to me, because it's government, right? When has government ever been efficient or accurate about anything? That's why it means absolutely. And just look at all the examples, you know, like this mesothelioma and all that other stuff. Like those were all FDA approved. So what? How are they culpable? How are they not culpable as much as the company who created the drug? So that's why I will never trust them. I will never give them any confidence in whatever they approve. So either way, my decision would have been the same. So that's why I told friends, like, don't say that, because it doesn't make you look good when you're supposed to be of a certain ideology, and then you're bowing to government, saying, hey, once the government says it's okay, then I'll be okay with it. Why? I thought you were kind of like, you know, libertarian conservative. Now you're saying that you want the FDA. Come up with a different reason, you know, make up your own reason that you're against taking it.
Well, other than just the stamp, like you could say, like, look, I've reviewed the FDA's data, and based on the data, it seems like it seems pretty safe. Statistically, it looks pretty safe.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
You can actually review the data.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know, like a lot of people that's too much work.
In a future stream, I want to talk more about this. I don't want to talk about it tonight because I'm a measured and fair person. I want to do some research on something around all the vaccines, and in a future one we can talk about it, because this topic isn't going away, guys.
No.
We'll be talking about this for a long time, and by the time I do this research, by the next stream, more information may be coming out, but definitely to be continued on this topic. But yeah, I think we're going to wrap it up. We've been going 3.5 hours, and I'm extremely tired. But yeah, it's been good conversation about all this stuff. But next Friday, my plan is to have, first one in a long time, an expanded university stream. And Wilkins said he is committed to it, and maybe a few other people. So, you know, just to do something fun for a different wavelength, you know, just have some, change it up a little bit, I guess, because, you know, doing the spacing for months, it kind of gets monotonous just talking about all the pop culture stuff. So doing this is fun. Eventually I want to have like a stream where we bring someone like Blake on and talk about a couple of old movies or TV shows, do like a comic book one, and bring Timon on, because he knows a lot about comics, as he proved last night. Just different stuff. You know, this is great, but man, this kind of stuff can get really heavy really fast. I used to be really into politics, 9/11 up until about 07, 08, when I got really busy with some personal stuff that I had to deal with for a few years. And I kind of fell out of it. And then, you know, after the Obama election, I was back into it, obviously. And that's when I created my Facebook account, and I get those memories that pop up, you know, and it's like, man, I really hated Obama. I can tell you that much. Yeah, Master and Commander stream. There you go. You know, stuff like that, and just fun stuff. But that's the plan. Tomorrow night, there's nothing, right? Nothing tomorrow night.
Any plans for tomorrow?
Nothing at all. I'm not on anyone else's channel, anything like that. So I'm probably going to make some videos. I have to edit the video and re-upload it, which I'm going to do. So that shouldn't take too long. And then I want to try to at least start work on some other videos. And then my Bloodlines review, I'm still working on that. It's pretty long with a lot of pictures and all that. The script isn't even done. So I'll try to get that out. The other one for the first book in that series has tons of views, like 350 or something. So I'm pretty happy with that. My documentary is nearing 1,000. That's why I tweeted it out today, trying to push it over the edge. I love those evergreen videos that just continually get views. And then Sunday, I think we're going to do Off the Treks. I think I could do that. There's nothing really going on Sunday. So we'll be back Sunday night, and then Monday, Indecent Behavior is going to be back, our bi-weekly show with Deadwood Dale, and we have a huge guest that, I'll be honest, Dale arranged, and it's Literature Devil. If you have not seen this guy's channel, he makes long videos, kind of like some of mine, just with thoughts on stuff. He has 100K plus subs. Really cool channel. So we're excited to have him on, and we're going to talk about all this treatment of customers by Dan Slott and that other douchebag from Marvel, or at least used to work for Marvel. We're going to talk about all that and some other fun stuff as always. So definitely be there for that, and tell a friend. We're trying to really get that show going, and I really respect the opinions and just the streaming skills of Dale and Greg. So that's gonna wind up being a really good stream. So that's it. Sure. That's the plan. Trying to think of anything else. I think that's it. And then again, Young Ripa on Lethal Lightning's Full Aussie in about 7 hours from now, something like that. 9:30 Central in the United States. So that's it. You got anything to say, Greg?
I do not, other than, good night.
All right, guys. We will see you Sunday night. Be there for more hot women of Star Trek. Later.
If you got a problem with that, we can always flush her out in airlock.
Your game is through, 'cause now you have to answer to America. Fuck yeah, so lick my blood and suck on my balls. America, fuck yeah, what you gonna do when we come for you
now? Is that legal?
I will make it legal. Where do you get this bureaucratic bull?
You have all the character references of a politician.
Intelligence has nothing to do with politics.
This president is not above the law.
If the dirty air don't get you, the politicians will.
The last remnants of the old republic have been swept away.
These orders have forced us to declare independence.